Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has harem with Ren Nora and Raven. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by NeonZangetsu and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. With a strong foundation and a little bit of sense and imagination, it just takes the slightest trigger to change a person. Sometimes the change is good. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it's a bit of both. And sometimes something new is born. Crazy equals genius. Nora was about to die. Really, she was rather cross now that it came to that. Why wouldn't she be? Anyone would. She was just a child after all. There was so much she wanted to say, to see, to do. She'd never left the walls of Kuroyuri. Never had a chance to see the world beyond. Never lived. Never found her mother. Never became an awesome kick-ass huntress with a giant hammer and a grenade launcher. Didn't look like she'd get the chance, either. And she'd finally made a friend, too. Really, it wasn't fair. Because they were being hunted. Chased through the streets of Kuroyuri, chased through the alleys, through the very night itself. They couldn't escape. Couldn't get away. No matter where they went they couldn't outrun their pursuers. The Grim haunted every shadow and darkened corner, waiting to pounce at the slightest provocation. Once they finished with the fleeing villagers, they would come for them. They were just children. They couldn't fight back. They could barely even run away as they were now. Ren's semblance was powerful and all, but he'd only just unlocked it tonight. And there were so many Grim lurking in Kuroyuri. He couldn't hide them forever. He'd reached his limit and collapsed only a few minutes ago. She'd been forced to carry him ever since, limping along as the rest of Kuroyuri died around them. It'll probably be slow. A small, mad part of her gibbered. They'll tear us apart piece by piece. She tried to silence it, to no avail. Behind her, she heard the slavering howl of a Beowulf pierce the night. Nora cringed and limped onward. She would not look back. She mustn't look back. Calm. She had to be calm. If she was just calm, they wouldn't be able to find her, not right away, at least. She tried to turn her thoughts elsewhere. Happy thoughts. Gotta think positive things. Her mind cast about, searching for something, anything else to dwell upon. Anything that wasn't this hell. If only she had a powerful semblance like Rennie's. Something amazing. Something incredible. Then she could help. They could fight their way free and escape to safety or. But none of that mattered now because she'd just rounded the corner and run right into a Beowulf. Nora blinked. The wolf blinked back. She whimpered and it broke the impasse between them. The Grim growled and stalked forward, regarding her intently. Here at last, Nora's fear finally got the better of her. She darted backward. And in her terror, she lost Ren. His unconscious form slipped from her numbed finger and flopped to the ground as she stepped backward. He went ignored as the Beowulf padded over him. Its inhuman gaze fixed firmly on her. Time slowed to a crawl. She saw its shoulders tense and knew what was coming. Any moment now it would pounce, bear her down to the ground and crush her skull in its jaws. Somebody. Anybody. Help. Deep inside her soul, something twisted. And against all odds, the heavens answered her plea. Lightning crashed down from on high, splitting the cloudy night and the street alike with an almighty clap of thunder. The Beowulf before her vanished in a roar of light, obliterated by the holy strike before it could hope to bring its claws down. Grim were thrown back in droves. Dashed against the walls and burning buildings of Kuroyuri. They were the lucky ones. They survived for all of 3 seconds. Alright. A rough voice drawled into the night. Where the hell am I and how did I get here? An awful pause followed. Nope. Never mind. Killing all of you with fire. A flicker of golden light howled into being and smashed the Grim apart, shattering them like such rotten driftwood. Those crazed, cruel creatures closest never saw what killed them. They barely beheld the light before it tore them to pieces and they died. As one they perished outright, rendered little more than black dust on the wind. Nora shielded her face against it, squinting into the haze that followed. And then. Quite suddenly. She found herself looking at a person. Now, to be fair, Nora was just a child. She knew little of the world and its ways. She knew nothing of magic or miracles. She only knew that she had prayed for help and that something, somewhere, someone, somehow, had answered her prayer. When faced with such a miracle she could only come to one conclusion. In hindsight, maybe it wasn't the best one. But it was certainly amusing. Are you my semblance? Her savior blinked. The hell's a semblance? .0.0.0. Naruto was no stranger to injury. A storied career as a shinobi had given him wounds that would annihilate a lesser man. His heart was nearly crushed. His body skewered countless times. Literally skinned himself alive in a rage-filled transformation. Had Kurama ripped out of him. Sacrificed his right arm to save his best friend. By contrast, a rough landing really wasn't all that much to worry about. He felt the shock rattle his knees and bent them as he always did after a hard jump, riding out the impact with barely a grimace. The confusion that followed it. That was new. He didn't know where he was. Kurama. Erk. My head. I think I'm going to be sick. His old friend answered surely enough. Did anybody get the number of that bitch? He remembered being struck by a bolt of lightning in the street and little else. One moment they'd been headed toward Ichiraku's after successful mission. In the next, clouds swarmed in over a sunny sky. His world went dark. There had been a flash of light. And now was here. Alright. He sighed, pinching the brow of his nose as he rose to his full towering height. Where the hell am I and how did I get here? A low growl answered him and he saw the beasts couldn't be called anything else in his mind bearing down on a young girl. Nope. Never mind. Killing all of you with fire. They fell easily enough once he called on Kurama. Unfortunately that left him alone with said girl. Her dirty hair was a dull shade of ginger and that alone won his attention. She gazed up at him, blue eyes wide, lips trembling, knees tucked into her chest as she clutched at herself. Beside her a young boy lay sprawled out in the streets. Dropping to a knee, he checked his pulse. Still alive. Good. Poor kid looked like he had been wrung through the ringer. The girl blinked up at him with wide, starry eyes. Are you my semblance? He frowned and looked down. The hell's a semblance? Doesn't sound like an insult. Don't you know? The girl balked at him. A semblance is a semblance. Just like the grim are grim. Grim? The monsters. She wrinkled her nose. Didn't they teach you anything in school? Well, not that you'd go to a school. You're my semblance. Semblances don't go to school. Blue eyes fluttered in a quick blink. I have no idea what a semblance is, but I'm not yours. Are you alright? I dunno. The girl giggled and hugged her knees to her chest. It was a sharp painful sound, as if she couldn't decide whether to laugh or cry. I think I'm going crazy. Something deep inside of Naruto winced at the sight. This girl, if she wasn't broken before, this ordeal had nearly done the deed. She looked all of an instant from losing her mind. On a whim, he said the first thing that came to his. Hey, you know what they say. Crazy equals genius. She tilted her head. Do they? Nah. Just made it up. He knelt quickly, wincing only a little when those blank blue eyes continued to regard him. A quick surge of chakra through his marked hand set the boy to rights and another tended to her wounds. The exhausted girl dared to smile at him for his deed. Thanks. You're a nice semblance. I'm Nora, by the way. That's Rennie. She pointed at herself, then the sleeping boy. Thanks for helping us. I'm not. Oh, forget it. Something told him it wasn't a good idea to argue with her. Not like this. You can call me Naruto. That's a weird name for a semblance, mister. For what felt like the umpteenth time, Naruto resisted the urge to sigh. Semblance, semblance, semblance. She kept calling him that. This was going to be a thing with her, wasn't it? Only then did he notice the fire and the flames raging around them. Really, this was lovely little village, or it would have been if it weren't currently on fire. And filled with monsters. Also. Screaming people. He was fairly certain that wasn't a good thing. A small sigh tore out of him. Right. Burning village. Questions later. Deal with that first. With a flick of his fingers, he created a shadow clone. Stay. He stabbed a finger at his doppelganger as much at the girl. Or better yet, find somewhere to hide. Her head bobbed, too terrified to do anything else. What about you? Gonna kill a few monsters. Should be back by breakfast. Then he waded into the village. His world blurred. Monsters or not, those foul creatures fell all the same. A punch here, a kick there, and these grim broke like so much kindling beneath his blows. It was a bit sad, really. If they'd used proper tactics they might have overwhelmed him. Instead they rushed in mindlessly, seeking to bury him with sheer numbers. Numbers that would never be enough. Not against him. For every minor wound they inflicted upon him, dozens died. Each paid with their lives, their numbers dwindling. With each death the blonde advanced. 1 step. 2. 3, now. Rip and tear. Great golden hands formed above him and smashed down, splintering the street. Bits of ashen and white bone flew through the air. Those mighty palms flattered one. He tore the head off another. Gigantic chakra jaws clamped down and tore a third asunder like so much meat. Still, they kept coming. Fine by him. So did he. Whatever injuries he'd sustained, his reserves were still full, brimming with wrath. On your left. Autumn. Rasen Shuriken. A giant amalgamation of bird and bone evaporated as the keening sphere leaped from his palm. Its ashes were still fluttering to the ground when he flung himself at the next monster. Naruto snapped his fingers and a staff sprung to his offhand as he leaped. He brought it crashing down on a giant ape, then spun to cleave a towering boar in twine. A particularly clever wolf tried to strike when his back was turned. He sensed its intent long before it pounced. Its body dissolved under a hail of truth-seeking orbs. They whirled to life in his free hand to eviscerate another creature bearing down on him. That was what the 30th. He'd lost track. All around him he could feel lives winking out one by one. Little embers of life, extinguished as he fought on. Nora wasn't one of them, but the deaths pricked his conscience all the same. He wasn't quick enough. He had to fight harder, better, faster, stronger. He raged all the more and gradually, the horde began to part around him. Finally, enough was enough. "Oh, so you have an army, do you? That's nice." He crossed his fingers and pulsed with chakra. "So do I." But those words, a towering plume of smoke filled the ruined village. Then another. Another still. His battered jacket fluttered in a bitter breeze and the smoke swept away to reveal his reinforcements. Hundreds of angry blue eyes glared azure daggers at the horde before them. These monsters lacked both means and manner of speech, but he was fairly certain he heard some of them whimper. Maybe it was his imagination. Maybe he'd simply gone mad. Who could say? Naruto's smile was Jewish, the wrong shade of vicious. Present arms. Clenched palms rose, each cradling a Rasen shuriken. As one, they loosed upon the Grim. In the ensuing explosion he heard a terrified keening cry. "Nora." He flung himself in the direction of her voice. A dark shape cantered ahead of him in the smoke. Slowly at first, then at speed. He rounded on it, confusion warring with anger. Reinforcements. Did this village have soldiers or shinobi? At first glance he thought it was man on a horse. He wasn't wrong, but he wasn't right either. His senses shrieked a warning as the haze parted. It wasn't human. Not human at all. What is that? It looked like some hideous cross between a horse and its rider fused at the hip. No, it was more akin to say the rider had grown out of the twisted beast itself. A twitching corpse sat atop a black destrier, arrows bristling from its back, eyes burning like twin pits in its hollow skull. It saw him and raised a gangly arm. No words passed its maw, but the gesture proved implicit enough. Kurama made a gagging noise in the back of his head. "Well. That's nightmare fuel. And I've seen some hideous things." The creature took one look at him and shrieked. "Right," Naruto grit his teeth against it. "Kill it with fire. All the fire." Its mount charged him, even as the rider struck out at him with its slender limbs. Dodging a swipe of its claws and called a whirl of chakra to his hand. An eerie wail filled the air, tearing at his. He took the first strike on a forearm and shouldered it aside, uncaring of the rent it left in his arm. Those wicked claws struck the street and kept coming. Dust and dirt sprayed into the air, peppering him with upturned cobblestones. He snagged one out of the air and whipped it toward where he'd last seen the abomination. Its eerie wail pierced the gloom and he bounded toward it, only to find his work undone. For the razor-sharp tile he'd thrown had cleaved through the rider's chest. Still, it didn't die. Burning pits regarded him furiously, without regard for its own life. With a jerking, spasmodic movement, it ripped the jagged edge from its chest. Another piercing scream tore through the air, ripping at his eardrums. Enough. Naruto's body pulsed gold and he leaped forward, kicking off a wall to mount the monstrosity. With a furious roar he finished what he'd started. His fist snapped forward in a quick punch, simple and clean. One punch. That was all it took to slay the rider's body. Its horned facade snapped back with an awful crack and went limp, a puppet severed from its strings. Black ash showered him. Some got in his mouth, causing him to gag. He spat it out and slashed down with a kunai, just to be certain. Beneath him, the Grimm's horse half stilled. Just like that, huh? Naruto released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Well, that was easy, hey. Without word or warning the unholy creature reared back to life underneath his legs and threw him off. "Are you kidding me?" He righted himself with a hiss. "What does it take to kill you?" Bereft by the abrupt death of its rider, the horse charged him and the frothing hooves flailing in the air in a wild attempt to crush him flat. Naruto grit his teeth and spat in. A quick sidestep carried him forwards and beneath those mighty forelegs. He caught each near the ankle, eyes burning gold with molten wrath. Rather than rip them off, he held fast, rooting the beast where it stood. The beast snapped at him with its teeth, to no avail. Even with its long equine neck its jaws couldn't do anything more than shower him with fetid breath. Man gaze upon monster, and the latter yielded to the former. Kurama reared around Naruto, jaws gaping large. Larger. Largest. Black light built around those golden jaws, with the knuckle of E at its center. Still it thrashed in his grip, desperately trying to get at him. Wholly unaware of its impending demise, those ghastly teeth were still snapping at him when the blast went off. "You're done tormenting these people. Just die." The tailed beast bomb was nothing short of spectacular. Even from this distance Naruto himself forced to close his eyes against the light. It rammed into the Grim head-on at an upward angle and carried it off, rocketing it away into the clouds. Light burned away the darkness to split the sky. For one wonderful moment it was as if the sun itself peeked over the horizon. And then it was done. Exhaustion crashed down upon Naruto as he realized just how long he'd been fighting. Chest heaving, covered in countless minor wounds, he turned in search of his next opponent. Instead he found only silence. Was that it? Where were the rest of them? He spied Nora. She dared a timid smile across the square. He mirrored it with a rusty laugh as she limped over, tugging a now conscious Ren with her. Well, at least they were alright. But really, where were the rest of the Grimm? Someone shouted. Hail to our hero. Naruto's gaze snapped toward the sound, somewhat taken aback. Hail. Me? A second took up the cry. Hail. Baffled blue eyes rounded on the sound, terribly startled. He couldn't find any Grimm. Not a one. Hail. Another cried. Little did he know that the Knucklehead was the last monster, the last Grimm. Still standing in Kuroyuri. His clones had dispatched the rest while they brawled. By standing his ground, he'd held back the worst of the horde and given others time to hide, if not escape outright. Many had chosen the former. Even now he could see survivors emerging from the rubble, battered and bruised, but still alive. The human spirit really was a remarkable thing, it seemed. Now all these people were all staring at him. That was awesome. Nora all but raced to his side, eyes shining like twin stars. How did you do that? She gasped as a thought hit her and latched onto his leg. Can I do that? It's not that simple. Naruto didn't get a chance to finish. Because her outburst broke the dam. As one, the survivors crowded in around them. Plaintive voices filled the air. Grasping hands reached out, seeking his shoulders, his chest, anything really. Everyone saw him. Everyone knew him. Everyone wanted to touch him. Too much touching. Way too much. Garama chortled softly. How amusing. Wait. His arms flailed even as his face flamed with embarrassment. I really didn't do much. Pale. Much to his chagrin, others immediately took up the cry. Long live our hero. Long live the Lord of Kuroyuri. Long may he reign. Funny thing. Ever since I came this world I've felt stronger during the day. Strange thing, isn't it? At night, I'm just fine, but during daylight. I feel like I could bench press a mountain. Yet you call me a god. Me? I ain't a god. I'm not a monster either. I'm just a human. Unlike you. Tell me how it feels to know you're looked down on by a human Salem. The future. Who decided that? Some say madness is the emergency exit. The easy way out, a quick escape when you're feeling overwhelmed. Perhaps it was. Naruto was certainly feeling more than a little mad right about now. There was just so much to do. Kuroyuri was in terrible disrepair after the grim raid, her people rudderless and adrift with the death of their mayor and most of their warriors. It fell to him to take charge in the aftermath of this disaster. He could play the part. Or at least stumble his way through the steps in some reasonable fashion, he hoped. Really? Kurama chortled softly in his head. This from the man who wants to build a portcullis in the moat. They're defensible, alright. The man before him didn't seem to agree. Alright. Naruto pinched the bridge of his nose and resisted the urge to snarl at the craftsman before him. The moat will come later. For now, the gates should take precedence. When the man didn't challenge him, few did these days. He pulled on and outlined his plan once more. Secure it. He snapped his fingers in distaste. Fortify it, man. It's wide open, for crying out loud. I want it finished by tonight. But my lord, we don't have enough men. Ignore that word. Naruto crossed his fingers instead. Chakra pulsed. Smoke flared into the afternoon air. No one looked up from their assigned tasks. This was a common enough sight by now. They'd grown used to such wonders days ago. Quick as a flash, 24 shadow clones materialized at the blonde's back, grinning from ear to ear. You do now? He frowned at the builder. Scoot. It will be done, my lord. The man, a balding fellow with brown eyes and gray hair, snapped of a salute and scurried of. Gods bless you. And stop calling me that. He shouted after the man's back. I'm not a lord. By the log, he loathed that phrase. My lord, this. My lord, that. My lord, my lord, my lord. He wasn't a lord. He had never been a lord. Yet these people persisted in treating him like one. Arg. It made him want to tear his hair out. Was this what being Hokage was like? He hoped not. Endless paperwork, constant delegating, breaking up arguments, fending off Grimm and keep everyone on task. It was like herding cats. But he couldn't simply up and leave these people to their fates. Sometimes the worst action to take was taking no action at all. Nora giggled from her perch atop his shoulders, snapping him back to reality. You really don't like that word, do you? My lord. She drawled the word with a merry titter. What's so bad about it? Everything. He frowned up at the little girl who had laid claim to him. Also boop. Quick as a flash he reached up to flick her nose. She giggled and clung on tight to his hair. Best semblance ever. That again. And there was another mountain to climb. Whatever a semblance was, he surely wasn't a trite. Naruto rolled his eyes at the thought. She's not going to stop calling me that, is she? To be fair, Naruto was many things. Kind. Understanding. Determined. Patient was not one of them. He was willing to hear people out, sure, but he had his limits. He'd always been a man of action. A warrior wearing his heart on one sleeve even as he swung a fist in the other. He'd never been the sort to stand still. But children were difficult. I'm afraid not. Ren replied with a mild smile as his sighed. You'd best get used to it. Naruto scowled down at the little traitor. Be that way, would he? Two could play at that game. His hand descended, ruffling the boy's dark hair. The stoic boy actually blinked at that and the general air of malice about him dissipated a bit. Ren jolted but made no effort to push him away. On a whim, Naruto let his heart guide him, as it always had. Suppose that makes you my little brother then. His words had the desired effect. Now it was Ren's turn to sputter. Excuse me. You need someone to look after you, right? Naruto beamed back. When you put it like that. Yup. That's us. Nora giggled and pointed toward the horizon. Forward, faithful steed. To glory. Naruto rolled his eyes and walked forward a more sedate pace, despite Nora's insistence that he break into a sprint. All told, the damage here had proven admittedly minor this far. He'd arrived and beaten back the horde before too many buildings fell. This place could be rebuilt. No, it would be. From the ashes of this pitiful settlement, they would make a new one. It would better. Stronger. He wouldn't let it fall again. People died when they are killed. Well. He wouldn't let anyone else die, then. He would save everyone in front of him even if it drove him stark raving mad. But hey, he hadn't cracked yet. Surely that was a good thing. First came the walls. Most of them had endured despite the assault. For the Knuckle of E had come in through the main gate. Those would be rebuilt nice and high in the days that followed, then manned with clones until Kuroi retrained up a fresh batch of warriors. By some stroke of luck, the grand sakura tree in the center of the city had been spared. Grim had no interest in trees or plants. It became a memorial for those who fell during the siege. His eyes swept across the square, watching the hardy folk at work. Second was the rubble. While the walls were being rebuilt, ruined houses were demolished. Caved-in roofs were cleared away. Several survivors had already been found within. One of which, miracle of miracles, turned out to be Ren's mother. Badly hurt and with a cracked skull. He'd done all he could for her. Now it was up to time. And luck. His had held so far. He could only pray it would endure the storm that was to come. His luck and his silver tongue hadn't failed him yet after all. And Ren was strong. She would live. She had to. Ren needed his mother. Ren himself had been quiet and withdrawn until just now. A result of unlocking his semblance under great duress. Naruto found himself sympathizing with the poor boy. He'd suffered a great shock and regardless if mother survived her injuries or not, it didn't change the fact that his father had perished. Semblance or not, some miracles carried a heavy price. Every action had an equal and opposite reaction. Speaking of which. Kurama felt it before he did. Do you smell that? What was that scent? Naruto paused in mid-step, frowned, and inhaled once. He followed it and looked up, frowning at waft of smoke in the distance. It wasn't coming from Kuroi but rather, just outside it. No, not smoke he realized, but dust, the normal sort, as if a large group of people were moving very quickly. His heart. What's that smoke? He soon had his answer. Someone slammed a hammer against the village bell, kicking up a terrible clamor. Bandits. A woman on the wall brayed. Bandits at the gate. Naruto felt something harden in his heart. Resolve and determination fused together, turning his heart to sunny steel. Robbers and thieves. It seemed some things never changed, even in a new world. He started forward, only to remember just who was sitting atop his shoulders. He made his choice in an instant. Nora, he whispered her name on a thread of breath, off. Credit where it was due, the little girl didn't hesitate. She clambered off his shoulders, slid down his back and landed beside Ren. Naruto flicked him a wary gaze, somewhat annoyed to find that he had retreated into himself once more. Likewise, poor Nora looked to have clammed up entire. Fretful fingers latched onto Ren's sleeve and held tight. Any trace of excitement was gone from her gaze, replaced by fear. Wait, were they afraid of him? What's wrong? He frowned at them. Your eyes. She murmured, pointing. They're glowing. They are. Naruto blinked, nonplussed by the words. He wasn't using senjutsu or calling upon any of Kurama's power. For lack of a mirror he pulled out a kunai, finding his reflection in the polished metal. His eyes were indeed glowing, trailing with golden light edging out from his still blue eyes like living flames. That was something. He didn't feel any different. Just angry, irritated by the presence of fresh attackers. Someone yelped in the distance and he stowed the knife away quickly. Nora had spoken true. It was mystery for later. He turned, only to find that Nora had latched onto his leg. Fretful blue eyes met his. "Where are you going?" "Nowhere. I'll be just a moment." He drew them in for a quick hug. "Stay here and look after each other." "You'll come back." She sniffled against his shoulder, clinging to that now. "Really? You will?" He drew back and patted her head. "Yup. I never go back on my word." She tried to say something, but he didn't give her the chance. Instead he spun and bolted toward the gate at breakneck speed. No need to hold back here. A single leap carried him the rest of the way in a heartbeat, sent him arsing over a dilapidated building to his destination. What's going on here? And then, quite suddenly, he was there, landing before the gate proper. His feet struck the ground in a pointed crouch and slammed out of it, eyes alight as he searched for the source of the disturbance. He needn't look far. They were certainly a ragtag bunch, all things considered, clad in torn leathers, torn and dirty, rough and ready, numbering little more than a dozen. Their weapons did them no credit, worn axes and swords all, and other strange devices that he didn't recognize. Were those bows? They didn't look like bows. Thoughts for later. His nose wrinkled at the negative emotions emanating from the lot of them, and still more when he saw their victims. 3 bodies sprawled at their feet. 2 were still breathing. 1, the craftsman he'd just sent here, was not. Naruto twitched. Had he sent the man to his death? No. No, no, no. Not again. "Hello, friend." Their leader was exceptional for his eye-patched scarred head and absolutely nothing else. "Looks like you could use a bit of protection." Naruto didn't speak. He lashed out. A golden arm burst from him, grabbed the 3 craftsmen and reeled them in like fish. He knelt immediately, touching a marked hand to the old man's chest. Nothing. No life. Not even the faintest of breath. In a fit of panic he lashed out and pushed chakra into the man's chest. More. More still. The craftsman Dean, he remembered his name now, sputtered and coughed, eyes flying open. "My lord." Naruto scowled as he climbed back to his feet. "Told you not to call me that, stay there." "Well." Kurama offered a low hum. "That's new. Don't ignore us, huntsman." The bullet whistled at Naruto's face. He caught it and ground it down to fine powder. Last mistake. He opened his fingers, leaving the remains of the round to tumble into the ground. "Leave. Now." "No can do, I'm afraid." The scarred leader of the troop only sneered at him. "See, I'm afraid we can't do that. You haven't paid your protection money." His brow furrowed. "Protection? Indeed." The bandit grinned and spread his arms wide, wholly unaware of the dragon he'd just awoken. "For a generous fee, me and my boys look after this little village of yours. Ain't that generous of us?" He turned to gaze back at his comrades with a sneer. "It's that time of the month, you see. Pay up and we'll see our way gone." "What's wrong with you?" Blue eyes narrowed to venomous slits. "We have no money. This place just attacked by Grim. We have no money." "Too bad." His words fell on deaf ears. "Guess you'll pay in blood, then." "No." Blue eyes slid shut. "I don't think we will." "What, you some kind of hero or ga?" He pitched back, clutching at his chest and the dagger within. It was a fair throw. His body was a corpse before it hit the ground. He killed Bert. One of the bandits looked up aghast, eyes narrow with hate. Kill him. These men would have been invaluable during the siege. Kuroiri had few in the way of warriors. But they hadn't. Protection. What protection? This lot was a nasty bunch indeed, and he wasn't feeling particularly merciful at the moment. It was all too easy to slip back into anger and let his emotions get the better of him. For once, anger had its day. His fingers crossed. Smoke flared. Men screamed. What followed couldn't even be called a proper fight. It was a massacre. A swarm of clones against barely 12 men. Poor bandits didn't even last 30 seconds. They fell under a storm of blows, crying for mercy as they fell before the gate. Clouds of dust kicked up, briefly turning the world brown and gray, obscuring the world from view. "You bastard." He heard a voice in the haze. "You think you're a hero? Then die like one." He turned, just in time for a bandit to run him through the gut. There was no pain. Surprising. He could see the blade in his sternum and yet he felt nothing. "Well." He hummed. "That's unexpected." Kurama sighed. "Really? Really? When will they learn?" Naruto agreed wholeheartedly as he reached around and cuffed the man on the chin. "I can't be a hero." He wiped a line of blood from his mouth. "Who decided that?" A tan hand reached around and ripped the blade from his stomach. "I can't save everyone." His head tilted, eyes narrowing to vicious slits of sapphire. "And who decided that?" "I decide such things." "That's impossible." The bandit balked, eyes wide. "I ran you straight through." Another step as he fell back on his rear. "What the hell are you?" Naruto took the words in strike. Apparently regeneration wasn't a common thing in this world. Good to know. Not for this one. "Do you?" "I may as well be God." Blue eyes pulsed gold as his body began to glow anew. "Now bow." He'd said it as a joke, a means to terrify the man. To make him quit the field. He didn't expect him to actually do it. Before his very eyes, the fool did just that. With but a whimper he dropped to his knees and leaned forward. His scarred head kissed the ground as he began to babble. Tears poured from his eyes as his body shook in a full-on tremor. Within moments he was all but begging for his life, for the mercy he'd not shown the people of Kuroyuri. "Mercy, my lord," he bawled. "Please, spare me. I have a family. I'll renounce my chief and serve you." Curiosity reared its ugly head. "And who do you serve?" Sweat poured down his face. "I can't tell you." "Then you can die." The man broke with a warble. "Raven Branwen." 2 little words. A simple set of syllables. They would change everything. "Oh, Raven Branwen. I want a word with you." "You know me?" "No, I don't. But then again I don't need to know you to get the measure of you. You're the leader of these bandits, right? Good. That makes things easier. Tell me, how does it feel preying on people who can't fight back, eh? Attacking a settlement recovering from a grim attack. Bet it makes you feel real good, doesn't it? Their fate is of no concern of mine. The strong thrive. The weak serve the strong. Such is the way of the world." "Really? I'm so glad you said that. So if I beat you into the ground?" "Uh-oh. That means you're weaker than me, right? Blonde meets Branwen. Feel the thunder. Are you gonna smash the bandits?" "Never change, Nora. Never ever." Naruto tried not to smile and failed spectacularly as he sauntered down the dirt path. Really, he couldn't help but smirk. In her eyes, life was simple. Good guys always won. Bad guys got smashed. That was how the world worked and nothing could change her mind. He almost envied her naivety. Because at the end of the day life wasn't simple, was it? With an attitude like hers, he'd have to see his way to giving Nora a hammer someday. She seemed the sort to make good use of it. "Yes, Nora." In the end, he grinned up at the girl sitting on his shoulders. "I'm gonna smash the bandits." The little ginger beamed back from her perch. "I can watch you fight, right?" "Yup," the wayward warrior forward to sigh. "You can watch." She grinned and hugged the back of his head. "Best semblance ever." "I keep saying, he ain't a bloody semblance." Their captured guide who had only reluctantly identified himself as Braun grumbled ahead of them. "If anything, he's a god-stupid girl. She's absolutely cracked." Nora glowered at his back. "I heard you." "Hey." Naruto growled and shoved him between the shoulders. "Don't talk about her like that. And keep walking." "Yes, m'lord." The poor sap rolled his eyes yet hastened on nevertheless. "At once, m'lord." The blonde scowl redoubled. "And stop calling me that." "Of course, m'lord." "Arg." As the ex-bandit led them on in stoic silence, Naruto felt his thoughts begin to unspool. Part of him felt anxious leaving Kuroyuri behind. Let alone venturing out into the wilds like this in the first place. He couldn't leave the village unprotected. Nor could he leave his ward behind. Such was his intent in the beginning, but Nora pitched such a fit that he had to bring her along, if only to stop her tears. He never wanted to see a tantrum like that again. Poor girl. She'd cried so hard. Been so distraught. Perhaps this was for the best. Who knew what trouble she might get up to if he left her behind? Conversely, Ren wished to stay and look after his mother, lest she wake from her coma to find him gone. Naruto had yielded to his wishes as well and left the boy behind. In the end he'd dipsitched a battalion of clones easily 3 dozen strong. To guard the village. They were left with strict instructions not to let any intruders past the gates. And so, with none but young Nora at his side, he had set out to deal with the bandits. He'd made all the necessary preparations earlier this morning. Checked his knives, sharpened his shuriken, even found a comfortable wool cloak for the morning chill. He'd even been given a new weapon by the villagers, a great gaudy thing that he didn't know how to use, yet it accepted out of gratitude nonetheless. Even now its weight rested comfortably against his back, clinking softly with every movement. He was still surprised they'd forged it for him at all. His lips twitched at the memory. .0.0.0. This is an axe. Aye. The smith replied. It be an axe. Blue eyes narrowed. Samson, why am I looking at an axe? We made it for you, m'lord. The blacksmith of Kuroyuri wiped a bead of sweat from his bearded brow as he set the gold and silver embossed weapon down before him. It was a bit of a rush job, but me and Jirls were able to cobble it together. In your hands, I'm sure it'll be right as rain. Naruto frowned at it. I can't accept this. I should at least pay. Nonsense. Sturdy hands pushed the coin pouch into his palm. You saved our village. Sapphire and Scarlet wouldn't be alive if not for you. My daughters are worth more to me than gold. The blonde peeked around the corner of the forge and spied 2 young women looking back. He understood the names immediately. One had hair of deep dark blue, while the other's flowing tresses rather reminded him of Kushina. Each had eyes of striking silver. Like actual silver. That was certainly something. The Redeed saw him and flashed him a jaunty little before their mother dragged her back out of sight. Probably nothing important. Well, go on, then. He gestured to the weapon at his feet. Give Rita a swing or two. Naruto blinked. You named it. After a local goddess of these parts. The Forge Master seemed oddly amused by that goon. What are you waiting for? I don't really use a weapon, though. Begging your pardon, lord, but folk respect a man with a weapon. And it's safer for you. He gestured to the grand gilded thing with W Gurn. You can fight Grim well enough with your fists and those fancy tricks, but sooner or later, you'll risk losing a limb to them. Better safe than sorry. You've that girl to look after now. Think of her. Naruto did. Firm fingers closed around the heft. He hefted at the giant golden axe and gave it a swing. Ha. Simple. I like it. Kurama rolled his eyes in mild derision. You would. Bloody show-off, you have no subtlety. .0.0.0. Maybe he should start using it after all. Naruto spared the axe a brief glance over his shoulder and frowned at the reflection he found within its edge. His eyes were glowing once again. He wasn't using chakra, yet he could see golden flames burning from the edges of his blue eyes. What did that mean? High above them the sun burned bright in the sky, shining its face down upon them. Beneath its kindly gaze he felt stronger than ever. Like he could cut a mountain in half. Why was that? Kurama mimed a shrug in his mind. Your guess is as good as mine. Naruto. Nora tugged at his hair. Why did we stop? It's nothing. Naruto muttered. Let's move on. In the end, he shook such thoughts off, looked away from the sun and kept walking. Although he couldn't claim to have much in the way of experience when it came of weapons, let alone knowing how to use an axe, he'd accepted it out of gratitude. Couldn't be too hard to use. Just hit him with the pointy end, right. Easy. Still never seen this axe before. So why did it feel like the weapon was calling to him? He was still pondering such thoughts when, quite suddenly, they stumbled upon the Branwen tribe. .0.0.0. This was a bad place. Nora knew it long before she saw the sentries at the gate. Their jeering stares only served to further cement her suspicions. Not hard to find thanks to the schmuck guiding them, but ramshackle all the same, the Branwen tribe looked a ramshackle and dismal place. Just the sort a band of killers might make. She wrinkled her nose at the sight as much as the smell. Bandits couldn't create. They could only take. As such the crude wooden gate and palisades spoke for themselves. Nora. Naruto whistled sharply. Off. She clambered down off his shoulders and latched onto his good hand for dear life. His palm was warm to the touch. Warm and gentle, like the father she'd never known. He looked down and granted her a small smile, just the sort a parent might give their child. Her heart skipped a quick beat. That was silly. He was her semblance. She would have remembered a dad like him, wouldn't she? Her pale face flushed as he pulled her into his side. Stay close to me. His eyes were glowing again, burning with curling golden flames. Nora wondered why. He looked awake, alive in a way she'd never known. Positively bursting with energy. The air felt hot around him. And he was a little taller than before. Surely that was her imagination. People didn't spontaneously grow during the daylight. That just wasn't done. Their guide led them to the gates, no doubt intending to open them. At least he did, until Naruto thumped the sentries upside the head, knocked them out, and ripped the gate from its hinges. Timber sprayed into the air, followed by startled shouts as he flung it aside. Nora whistled at the casual display of violence. Once again. Best. Semblance. Ever. I'll just wait outside, shall I? Braun saw the thunderous look in the blonde's eyes and dithered at the entrance. See that you do. Naruto tucked Nora back into his side and waded in without another word, making a beeline for the center of the camp. The bandits didn't take kindly to their approach. Some balked at them, others brandished weapons, but none dared challenge them. A handful parted before them, each edging aside with fearful growls. The rest learned from the actions of their fellows. They took one look at his face and ran hollering for their leader. Nora couldn't help but feel relieved at that. Maybe these dummies would just back down, yeah, right. Still, child that she was, she wanted to hope. In short order they found the largest tent of all red and black with a wooden ramp. Naruto glared at the massive structure and stormed toward it with purpose. A particularly bold man moved to block him and was summarily slugged in the face for his bravery. His stunned form went spinning into the dirt. An angry ripple passed through the camp, but once again, none dared to come near. Oh, Raven Branwen. His voice boomed, low, deep and so very, very angry. I want a word with you. She emerged from the largest tent of all, and Nora realized just who they faced. Startling red eyes glared back at them, set within a pale yet haggard face framed by a thick curtain of dark hair. Clad in red and black she approached them, one hand upon the hilt of her sword. Nora found herself taken aback at the sight. No mere bandit was she. This was a huntress. Or a former one at the very least. She moved with deadly poise and grace, her movements bellying polished skill. And that blade at her side well. By the look of her, she clearly knew how to use it. You know me, stranger. No, I don't. Naruto shook his head. But then again I don't need to know you to get the measure of you. You're the leader of these bandits, right? When she didn't deny him, the ghost of a smile tugged at his lips. I thought so. That makes things easier. Raven frowned. Did you want something, or did you just come here to flap your gums? Nora felt her temper stir, but clamped down on it. She didn't dare speak. Not with so many eyes upon them. Tell me, Naruto barreled on, heedless of her anger, how does it feel to prey on people who can't fight back? Her lips parted to answer, only to be silenced by a raised hand. Attacking a settlement recovering from a grim attack. Bet bullying Kuroiri made you feel real powerful, didn't it? That village still stands. Her brow furrowed. I had heard it felt grim. Reports of its demise are greatly exaggerated. Nora's protector took a step forward, forcing her to follow or be left behind. Kuroiri stands. And your men, he stabbed a finger at her, came demanding tribute. They hurt plenty of good people. His eyes burned and the air around him grew muggy with heat. My people. What do you have to say for yourself? Raven tilted her head. But we'll expect bigger tribute next time. Naruto went curiously still. Excuse me. Tribute. The dark woman repeated with the air of a mother talking down to a stupid child. Since you beat my raiding party, we'll expect more of you next time. Low laughter ran through the ring of bandits. Nora whimpered. Naruto growled. They don't have anything left to give. Their fate is of no concern of mine. Raven tossed her head, sending the dark curtain of her hair swing. The strong thrive. The weak die. Such is the way of the world. Nora saw the moment determination turned those gentle blue eyes hot with wrath. You should surrender while you still can. Yeah, that's a hard no. Raven folded both arms before her chest. I refuse. Naruto swung an arm back. A shadow clone materialized behind him and yanked Nora to safety. As such, she had a prime view of what happened next. Her semblance stepped forward, climbed the steps, and rammed his head forehead against Raven's burning golden blue eyes met red. Neither yielded. I'm so glad you said that. Naruto's grin grew, taking on a bitter edge. So if I beat you into the ground. Uh-oh. She knew that look. That means you're weaker than me, right? The black brow rose. Care to say that again, hotshot? You wanna fight me? Fight you? His smile was just the wrong shade of vicious. No. I wanna beat your ass black and blue. Do you have any idea who you're talking to, boy? With a low click, the woman's blade slid free from its sheath, exposing a blood-red blade. Who do you think you are? I have half a mind too. An almighty thunderclap shook the camp. Raven's body slammed into the ground, bounced once, twice, then thrice before finally gravity reasserted itself. Nora winced when it did. The bandit queen hit the dirt at speed face first and found herself dragged across camp like a flung stone. A deep smoldering furrow scarred the earth in her wake as momentum had its wicked way with her. Finally she struck the outer wall of the camp. It didn't hold. The flimsily made wooden palisade shattered against her back as she shot through it and kept going, tearing an ugly line through the trees in the distance. The name's Naruto. Remember it. The blonde lowered his right fist, knuckles dripping with blood. I'm the guy who's gonna put some dirt in your eye. An explosion of trees answered his surly statement. Raven howled into existence behind him. Die. Naruto reached back, casually caught her blade, and reeled her in like a fish. His elbow slammed out, driving the wind from Branwen's lungs. She folded over his outstretched limb and retched for air. All around them the tribe, one so angry and surly, had fallen deathly still. None spoke. None dared to move. I'm 2 for 2 now, birdie. Naruto pulled Raven close, snarling in her ear. Care to make it 3? She spat in his face. Screw you. Alright, he shrugged. Have it your own way. Nora knew Naruto could have finished her there. Perhaps he should have. But he didn't. Even as his prey doubled over, he simply gave her a shove. The mighty Raven Branwen tumbled down the steps and landed hard on her rear, looking every bit a little girl beaten in a schoolyard brawl. And once again, Naruto didn't pursue. Alright you crazy bird, I'll give you one chance to surrender. A hand came out, fingers splayed, palm upturned in a gesture Nora didn't understand. Turn yourself in now and your tribe with you. The other finally tugged that mighty axe off his back. If you don't, I won't be held responsible for what happens next. She dove at the men. They fell into a flurry of blows. Steel struck steel. Raven's blade fractured and she drew another. Not bad. Naruto hummed. Weapons actually pretty light. I'll have to thank Samson later. Don't mock me. They closed again in a whirl of steel, 2 monsters fighting faster than the eye could see. Their clash seemed to stretch on for an eternity. when in truth, Raven lasted all of a paltry 3 seconds against Naruto before he got inside her guard and kicked away, sending her skidding back. Raven, was it? Look, I'm really not in the mood for this. He rolled his shoulders once, and Nora swore she saw the fabric begin to burn away beneath some unseen heat. Tell you what. Glowing golden eyes regarded her like an ant beneath his boot. I'll give you one free shot. But I'm warning you, if you waste it. Raven's blade slammed into his neck and shattered, the impact snapping his head to one side. His gaze shifted. You're gonna regret it. Raven balked. What the hell is he? Nora tittered merrily. He's my semblance, silly. He shines. Like the sun. Naruto grinned and brought a fist crashing down. The ground didn't just buckle. It burned. Raven crashed back, clothes smoldering. For the first time since she'd seen her, Nora saw fear burning in those blood-red orbs. Then the dark-haired woman flung out an arm, tearing a crimson portal into existence not a pace away. She pivoted in a whirl of red light and roared into it. Bring out the maiden. Nora didn't get a good look at her. All she saw was two men shove an angry-looking girl with rust-colored hair through the tear in reality. Whomever they were still they did Raven's bidding. Another bandit. No need to feel guilt. Naruto certainly did not. He rolled a shoulder, brandished that massive axe, then vanished in a streak of gold. The stranger saw him coming, shrieked fearfully and flung a bolt of lightning into his face. He scoffed, slapping it away with an open palm, and it recoiled. That could be the only word for it. Before Nora's very eyes the bold bolt of light folded back in on itself, bending before the sheer strength of its aggressor. Unprepared for such a response, the unknown girl had all of an instant to balk. Then her own attack speared her through the chest. This so-called maiden didn't fall. She crashed backward. Nora saw the hole in her chest long before they landed. Huh? Right at her feet. Glassy eyes stared up at her, blinking slowly. Nora stared back, just as terrified. No. Raven took a stumbling step forward. What have you done? Naruto shrugged, not seeing the peril. Defended myself. You fool. Get her back. Now. Poor little Nora didn't truly see what happened next. But she felt it. One moment she was minding her own business. The next she was staring into the eyes of a dying woman. A trembling hand clamped down on her ankle even as she struggled to escape. Naruto's clone lashed out and kicked her away, but it was too late. Nora heard a threadbare whisper carried to her on the air. At last release no more fear. Light burst from the woman's chest and struck Nora. It struck Nora. Valkyrie. Someone was screaming. It took her a handful of seconds to realize it was her. Then came the pain. Fire. Fire, fire, fire. It filled every cell, raced through her every pore, burning with power she'd never known before. She doubled over to clutch at herself, howling as sparks skittered between her teeth. Too much. It was just too much. Everything hurt. Pain everywhere, so much so that her very soul fracture. All around her the wind picked up. Frost flickered at fingertips as her aqua blue eyes shimmered with heat. Thought she could not see them, she felt the azure flames stemming from her eyes. Nora. And then quite suddenly, Naruto was there, catching her as crumpled to the floor. Nora blinked up at him with bright burning eyes. She coughed, don't feel so good. Then she fell into blackness. Sleep came swiftly. Why is Kuroiri still standing? Why your grace? I'm afraid I don't understand. No. You told me it had fallen. It has not. Why is this, Leonardo? I don't know. Rest assured, I will send someone and get to the bottom of this at once. No. You will fix this. Yourself. Today. Now. Salem and Lionheart. Cowards and cravens. Raven Branwen was no fool. She might be a coward and a craven and certainly a bad mother, but foolish. Never. She knew a losing fight when she saw one. Knew when to hold them and when to fold them. When to cut her loses and run. She had fled from Osban, fled from the feudal war against Salem, even fled from her own family. All to survive. At the end of the day, she would do anything to survive. And this? She was thinking it was time to run again. Nora. Naruto's voice split the afternoon with a cry. Nora, come on. Wake up. Don't do this to me. Breathed in golden flames, he clutched his ward close to his chest. She wasn't moving. Of course she wasn't moving. She'd just absorbed the full might of the Spring Maiden into herself. That was a shock to your system even as an adult. But for a child. Small wonder she'd been knocked out, slight as she was. Blasted, this was going to throw all her plans out the window. Her right hand strayed to Omen's scabbard and drew forth another dust blade. Wild sparks crawled across the edge, though she didn't dare bring it to bear for fear of provoking the titan before her. She ought to take that girl and claim the power for herself, but that seemed impossible now. She looked up, squinting at the sun. It was high noon. That shouldn't mean anything. And yet somehow, she felt it did. Her boots shifted a little against the gravel. You. Naruto's head snapped up with a wordless roar, blue eyes bleeding golden flames, teeth exposed in a snarl. Beneath his boots, the ground began baking to clay, cracking and splintering away in the face of his fury. Nearby bandits caught fire and tumbled to the ground with a shriek. His axe swept out in a fiery arc, hewing a number of them down at the waist. And he saw her. He saw Raven. You. There it was. That word again. Dread coiled in Raven's gut, twisting it into terrible knots of terror. In a moment, she understood. He didn't know. He thought she'd done something to his kid. Blood drained from her already pale visage as he climbed to his feet. He didn't understand. She had to make him understand, yet her tongue defied her, hanging still and dead in her mouth. She couldn't speak, such was her fear. You. That mighty axe smashed into the ground, creating a crater as wide as she was tall. And he was pretty damn tall right now. Why was he growing? His jacket shredding away, burning in those unnatural flames. What is he? He thought it was her fault. And she couldn't beat him. He was going to kill her. She knew it by the look in his eyes. It was the glare of an enraged parent come to wreak vengeance. Her mind gibbered, fear overtaking all her common sense. She hadn't been able to handle him before all this. He was coming for her. Wouldn't be satisfied with anything less than her head on a spike. I'm going to ask this once. Naruto spoke slowly, words a low growl in the afternoon, a resonant rumble fiery and ancient as the sun itself. Just once. What did you do to her, and how do I fix it? Raven took a step back and raised her hands. I didn't do anything to that kid. She's a part of something greater now. No thanks to you. Naruto absolutely twitched. Damn her arrogance. Shouldn't have said that. Portal. She needed a portal. She flicked Omen to one side, already reaching out with her semblance. Fear got the better of her again. A portal was all well and good, but to whom? Not Ozpin. He'd never let her live it down. Yang. Tai. Crow. Each one carried complications and humiliation in equal measure, paralyzing her with dread. Liar. With a mournful howl his axe swung down at her head before she could choose, forcing the battered Branwen to brave her blade with both hands or be cut in twine. Her arms went numb from the impact. A razor edge bit deep into her weapon, splintering cracks across the battered blade. His weapon came up and struck down again. A second brought her crashing to her knees. A third had her seeing stars. All the air in her throat dried up, turning the very oxygen to napalm. The very act of breathing became torturous in his presence. Don't just stand there. Raven bit out at the terrified men and women of her tribe. Shoot him. Shoot him. Bullets pinged harmlessly off those broad golden shoulders. Naruto frowned, took one hand from the handle of his axe, and raised it over his shoulder. Trapped as she was, Raven couldn't quite see what that thing in his palm was, not properly. It looked like some kind of giant blue sphere, shrieking with wind. A terrible keening cry split the daylight to rend at her ears. Bandits. He spat the word. I don't know why I ever spared people like you. You're scum. The lazy toss flung it over his shoulder. Raven forced herself to watch. Her riflemen didn't just die. Their bodies evaporated like so much mist in the wind. Some dared to strike at him with their blades. They failed as well, for their weapons melted into slag long before they could reach him. A particularly enterprising soul tried to rush him regardless of the fact, but without aura, his body burned to cinders immediately. The others, and there were more than a few, shrank back when faced with his fury. That's right. Stay. I'll deal with you lot later. But for now. The large hand clamped around Raven's throat. The other ripped Omen from her grasp and cast it aside, leaving her unarmed. He hoisted her into the air, dangling her with ease. What did you do to Nora? Nothing. She kicked out against his chest in a vain attempt to free herself. She brought it upon herself. She's a maiden now. Nothing can change that. He drew her close. What's a maiden? You really have no idea, do you? Her hands gripped the taut muscle of his arm. You fool. You'll draw the devil herself down on you. She dared to sneer. Doesn't matter. The girl will wake in time. From this day on, both of you will be hunted. All your lives. Your days are numbered. For an awful moment, there was silence. And then. So are yours. He squeezed and her world began to darken at the edges. I can train her. She bleated out the words, voice peaking with fear. Make her strong. I know how her power works. I've seen it. Furious golden eyes regarded her without a word. Without air, Raven felt her strength shrivel up in the heat, leaving her helpless. Powerless. All the colors of the world bled away, reducing her world to an ugly, awful gray. Death. This was death. She would die here, and without her blade, she had no way of making a portal. There would be no rescue. No last-minute miracle. She would simply die. Perish and pass from this world as many had, and no one would miss her. No one would mourn her. None would care about the demise of Raven Branwen. Please. It burned. Oh, how that burned. She didn't want to die. She wanted to live. Live, live, live. Something snapped in the back of her mind as her eyes rolled in raw terror. "I'll serve you." New words emerged in a low rasp. "I'll be your slave. Your maid, anything you want. Just don't kill me. Please." Naruto didn't answer. She didn't even think he could, so lost to his rage was he. In his eyes she was to blame for this. All of it, every bloody bit of it. Maybe that was true. But not like this. She couldn't bear the thought of going out like this. They say your life flashed before your eyes when you die. Hers didn't. She saw only a single face. "Yang, I'm sorry." "Hey." A tiny voice squeaked. "Don't I get a say in this? Always wanted a maid." Naruto's head snapped around with such force that Raven heard the muscles in his neck creak. "Nora." Without warning, the hand gripping Raven's throat went slack. He didn't so much drop her as he did throw her. She crashed to the floor, hacking and coughing, retching for air. Light and life crept back into the world, but still the persistent ache in her throat remained. Everything. She could feel the burns he'd left there. Sword. She needed her sword. Had to defend herself before he came back. But he didn't. She found him less than a yard away, fussing over a dizzy Nora. His ward wobbled a little on her feet, eyes alight with wild azure flames. Whatever strange heat had surrounded him was gone now, gradually bleeding away before her. Raven still regarded him with fear. "Don't," Nora rasped, "don't kill her. No more killing. Nobody else needs to die." Her knees twisted for a moment before she caught herself. "Wow, I feel weird at you." She sneezed and lightning crackled overhead with an almighty howl. For a moment Raven almost dared to hope she could escape. She looked down and reached for her broken blade. "And just where do you think you're gone?" Only to look up and find her staring into a pair of very familiar eyes, blazing with fury. "There's still the matter of your punishment." "Yup. Still angry. Very angry now. I know just the thing." Raven crashed backward as he swept her legs, only to catch her not a moment later. He bent her over his knee like a surly child. Realization broke like the dawn. She tried to escape, tried to squirm her way free, only for an elbow to plant itself against her spin. His other arm swung back ponderously, fingers splayed. No. Surely he wouldn't do that. Not here. Not now. Not in front of what remained of the tribe. Naruto's hand descended and struck her flank with an awful crack. Raven jumped in his lap with a shriek. And the hand descended again. Damn Yahoo. .0.0.0. Where am I? Then Ren opened her eyes with a groan. Mother. She felt a small weight crash into her chest. You're finally awake. .0.0.0. Samson considered himself a decent smith. He did good work with good tools. Simple as that. It had been his father's craft and his father before him. He forged as he created, breathed life into his creations as they had before him. Tools, weapons, armor for the occasional adventure. He didn't concern himself with much beyond that. Work and family, keeping food on the table and a roof over their heads. Such was his life. Higher concerns were for lords and ladies. Lords like Naruto. But lad, that one. He had a strong arm and a good heart. Without him, Kuroiri would have fallen long ago. He did work that the old mayor wouldn't dare. Indeed, his boys were even now leading the effort to reinforce what remained. Shoring up walls, building better gates and watchtowers alike. He kept the town safe. The girls liked him. Well, Scarlet certainly did, judging by the way she harassed his clones at every turn. For a wild moment the old smith imagined the wild boy wedding either of his daughters. Envisioned little lads and lasses with bright hair and brighter eyes running underfoot. It proved a rather pleasant thought. Men could sow all the wild oats they liked, but Kuroiri needed more children if it was to survive the years to come. Not much in the way of young folk around here. They needed to look to the next generation. To youngsters like Ren and Nora. The future lay with them, or perhaps even. A harsh clang caught the smith's ear, jarring him forth from such thoughts. "Blasted, girl." He clicked his tongue in mild disapproval. "Be careful with that billet." "Yes, Pa." Sapphire chimed, her eyes distant, cheeks gone rosy. "Sorry. Lost focus there for a moment. Didn't take much to imagine what." Shaking his head, Samson went back to his own task. There were blades to be made, armor to be forged. Still had the order of Horshoes to attend to. And they needed more coal for the fire. "And where the devil did your sister wander off to?" "Market." She chirruped, moving the metal to a barrel of water. "She left an hour ago." "Ah." A smile creased his weathered visage. "Flirting with one of the Lord's clones now, is she?" She looked away and whistled a nameless tune, avoiding his eyes. "No. Cheeky little lasses. They'd give him grandchildren yet." "Hey, Pops. Speak of the devil," a shadow clone bowled its way inside, slinging a large bulging sack over its shoulder. "Brought you some more coal. Hope you don't mind." "That's a good lad. Mind that yourself, did you?" Pretty much. The doppelganger shrugged. Seemed right to help out, you know. I've got a bunch of lumber and steel outside for the walls. Where'd I want this? Ah, he clapped him once on the shoulder. Put it wherever you want. The clone saluted and launched it into an open corner. Sapphire touched a hand to her mouth and wiped away the thin line of drool running fro her lips. She mastered herself quickly and went up to him to talk, hands linked behind her back and chest pushed out that way she did sometimes. Her cheeks flushed a pretty rose red. For his part, the clone replied readily, greeting her with a cheery smile. Samson strained an ear to listen. Perhaps later we could take a walk around the walls. Aye, he knew that look, even if Naruto didn't. Kuroiri loved its lord, but honestly, he and his clones could be dense a brick when it came to the fairer sex. You needed a hammer to get through to him sometimes. And like any good father, Samson couldn't help but tease his daughter. You can hound the lad later, girl. He nudged her aside with a knowing smile. There's work to be done. An indignant gasp and a slap on the arm was his reward. Ha. Heh. Life was good, and by the look of it, grandchildren were well on the way. What more could a man ask for? As though answering that very question, the town's bell began a long and sonorous toll. Open the gate. The sentry cried. Our lord returns. He brings guests. Like any good vassal, Samson knew how to pay his respects. The lookout was still braying about by the time he'd cleared the door, crossed the square and reached the gate proper. He wasn't disappointed. In the brief time he'd come to know the Lord of Kuroiri, he'd soon realized the man wasn't one for pomp and ceremony. Wasn't hard to find him out there. Oiled hinges swung open, pulling back to reveal a weary blonde in burnt clothing. Nora waved from her perch on his shoulder. Samson. There you are. How's business? And behind them wait. Was that? What the devil? Raven Branwen brought up the rear, her hands bound by heavy iron manacles. Unarmed and bound alike, she limped after them like a cowed cur. Head down in a vain attempt to conceal a black eye. All around her, the villagers began to shout and jeer. Everyone knew of the bloody Branwen. Menace of Mistral and scourge to towns everywhere. If he'd brought that bitch low, Kuroiri would celebrate indeed. This is our prisoner. He shrugged. Or maid. This amended with a glance at Nora. Haven't decided yet. She's not to be harmed. As you say, lord. Although. Naruto frowned. Right, best tell him what he'd missed. He'd nearly forgotten about it in the chaos. But Kuroiri had not been idle while their lord was away. They'd received another visitor of a sort. If he could even be called that. Really it wasn't every day one of the big wigs came down from the city to greet them. Best to let their leader know sooner rather than later. Begging your pardon, he grunted, but we had another guest while you were away. An important one. Naruto's brow furrowed. Who? I told you not to open the gates for anyone but me. That'd true, but how could we refuse the headmaster of Haven? Naruto sighed. Damn it, I'm too tired for this. Where is he? We put him up in the tavern. It's one of the few buildings still intact. You say that? Naruto looked over in that direction, sniffed once, and grimaced as though he'd smelt something foul. But why the hell is the headmaster of Haven here? Raven snorted. Maybe he heard about the situation and came to supply aid. Their lord sighed. Sarcasm doesn't become you. But I guess that's where I'm going. He thrust Raven at him. Lock this one up. We'll deal with her tomorrow. Bind her legs. She balked after him. You can't put me in a cage. Smoldering blue eyes met hers. Will. .0.0.0. Cowards never prospered. Never had this saying held more weight than it did for Leonardo Lionheart. You see, Leo was not a brave man these days. Far from it. He was a weakling, an old soldier so far from his prime that he could barely remember it. And this old soldier had fallen far. So very far. When that witch first came for him, Leonardo had been brave, bold and defiant. Brimming with youth and determination, ready to fight until the bitter end, until she laid him low. Until she broke him. All his power, all his strength meant nothing. Leonardo was a marksman, and a damned good shot at that. A very good shot indeed. But all the accuracy and firepower in the world meant nothing when you couldn't kill your enemy. His semblance was a keen gift, one that kept him from danger. At night, it failed him. He'd fought despite it. And paid dearly. Salem couldn't be defeated. Couldn't be killed. Couldn't be stopped. Your loyalty or your life, she'd said. Which will it be, huntsman? Choose wisely. Leo made his choice. Since that awful night, he had done terrible things to survive. Served the Dark Queen and all that she decreed. He wasn't proud of it, mind you. There was a special place in hell waiting for him when he finally passed on. He just knew it. Yet the destruction of his soul continued, a slow ugly thing that wore him away more with each year. A town here, a huntsman there, so long as Haven was kept safe, he obeyed. Recently she, Salem, had demanded Kuroiri's fall. So he'd drawn his huntsman away. stripped it of protection, slowly but surely until it stood vulnerable. And the Grim came. With no one and nothing to stand before that dark horde, its doom seemed certain. Refugees had fled to Haven speaking of its destruction, telling tales of the awful monsters they'd seen. And yet it was still standing. Now he'd been forced here by Salem's whim. Both to preserve his image in the eyes of the people and see what miracle had saved this simple village of smiths and artisans. They let him in, of course. As headmaster, it was his sacred right. He could not be denied. And what did he find? Nothing. A few men who looked like one another, but little more. Nothing to arouse suspicion. Pity. He'd suspected to find a stray hunter within, perhaps a rogue team that had defied his orders. No, it seemed their survival was a fluke and he'd have to report as much to the queen. Nora, slow down. Something slammed into his leg. Sorry. A cheery voice chimed. Didn't see you there. Leonardo looked down. And blinked. Once. Twice. Thrice, now. He found himself gazing upon a girl with burning eyes. In the moment, all became clear. Spring. Yes, it all made sense now. No wonder they'd fended off the Grim. Nothing else could have wiped out such a horde. How could he have been so blind? Kuroyuri held the missing maiden. Mere mindless Grim were no match for the raw power of the seasons. Of course. Yes, yes. This was news to be told, information to be delivered to his mistress at once. He barely even heard them speaking. His mind was already awhirl with possibilities. This could be his chance. If he gave Salem the spring maiden, she could take the vault and the relic within. He would finally be free. This would change things. Salem must be told. She must. .0.0.0. Naruto felt the spike of fear long before he met Lionheart. It made him wary. No lion was this, no matter what kind of faunus he might be. This was a cowardly cat. A craven. He didn't trust him for an instant and immediately drew Nora close to his side. In that moment he knew he wouldn't let him near her. Not once. Not ever. Negativity clung to the haggard headmaster like a cloud. More miasma really, and it instantly set him on edge. So it came as something of a surprise when the man took one look at him and immediately tried to run away like a cowardly dog. Well, it was nice to meet you, but I'm afraid it's time for me to return to Haven. Yes, quite the surprise indeed. Why leave so soon after meeting him? Juxtaposed to the idea of letting him go, he seized his wrist. Sit. .0.0.0. Leo tried to flee. He really did. He knew the moment he laid eyes on him. This man wasn't a man. This was a monster. His trusty semblance had not failed him before and it was presently shrieking at him. Run. Flee. Hide. Escape. Merely standing in the presence of this thing threatened to give him a heart attack and send him into paroxysms of sheer terror. Nope. All the nope. Not having it. Whatever this thing was, it was worse than a maiden. So he did what any sane man would do. Well, he dispensed with the small talk and rose from his chair. It was nice to meet you, but I'm afraid it's time for me to return to Haven. Naruto pinned him with a glance. Sit. It was like staring into the sun itself. Leo's body locked up and betrayed him at once. Naruto smiled. It was not a nice smile. Eureka fear. Care to tell me why? And no reason. He gulped and tugged at his collar. I was simply afraid you might act as a weapon for these people, a deterrent to be. No, 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 the Lord of Kuroyuri shook his head. I'm not a weapon. He hefted the axe on his back, then slammed it into the ground, shaking the street. This is a weapon. Where's yours? Leo whimpered. As ever, Stalwart was still strapped to his wrist. The battle discus ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. He didn't dare draw it for fearing of conjuring his doom. He knew that if he drew it now, he would undoubtedly die. And at the end of the day, death was something to be avoided. He would do whatever it took to scrape and survive. Anything at all. Still, he tried one last time. Perhaps you should come to Haven. Enough. Blue eyes narrowed, burning with a hint of something else. Something more. You're talking in circles. Tell why you're really here, Lionheart, or you regretted. Leo cracked like an egg. Beneath that gaze, the headmaster quailed. His word was final. Absolute. There was no arrogance or posturing behind it. Just pure fact. No quarter. No question. For the first time in his life, he met someone who terrified him more than Salem. It was too much. Appeasing Ozpin and Salem was one thing, but a third party. Caught between a rock and a hard place, his brain came to a singular, logical conclusion. Nope. It spat. Fuck this shit. I'm out. No more of this. I quit. Someone else can be headmaster. Better him than me. Truly, passing out was a mercy. I need your help. It's my mother. Ever since she woke up, she's been acting strange. How strange we talking about? Because I've seen a few things in my day. Best if you see for yourself. Young Ren and Naruto. Inevitable. Welcome home. As far as first impressions went, and Ren made a good one. Indeed, Ren's presented herself to Naruto Uzumaki exactly as one might expect from a widowed woman who had recently survived a near-death experience. In that she seemed determined to ignore the reality of her situation and all its trappings. Were it not for the faint bandana of bandages wrapped round her forehead, one might think her well and truly healed. The young woman certainly cooked as though everything were fine. Naruto balked into the simple fare arrayed on the table before them. To call this feast a 5-course meal would have done it a great disservice. For it surpassed anything such a restaurant might provide. A fine aroma wafted through the air to tantalize the senses. Roast goose lay on 5 plates, one to each chair. Each meal drizzled with gravy, paired with fresh vegetable and fruit alike. She'd even gone so far as to serve refreshments. Mulled wine for the adults and fruit juice for the children. This is a trap. I just knowed. Ooh. Nora cooed at his side. That looks delicious. Truly, the girl's eyes were bigger than her stomach sometimes. Naruto regarded it all with nothing short of absolute confusion. You made all this for us. Ren muttered something into the palm of his hand. Mother, you shouldn't be up and about. Your health. Nonsense, son. She smiled at him, full of light and life. You know what they about idle hands. Now go wash up. Supper's nearly ready. In the end Naruto let the children go with a mere frown, idly watching as Ren went to wash his hands, while Nora all but clambered into a chair and tore into her meal. This was not what he'd expected when the poor boy begged him meet his mother. Yes, all told, and Ren certainly acquitted herself well in his eyes. She'd made them a fine dinner. That was the problem. For someone who'd been comatose, she shouldn't be up and about like this. That could perhaps be attributed to her recently unlocked aura, but even then there was something about her smile that was off. Wait. 5 plates. His gaze shifted as Ren returned and he performed a quick head count. There were only 4 of them. Himself, Nora, Ren, and herself. Who was the 5th? Frowning a little, the wayward warrior pushed that thought aside and slid into a chair. This is all very nice, he hedged warily, and I appreciate the meal, but what's all this for? For saving my son, of course, and Ren bowed low and deep at the waist. Thank you for taking care of him. Naruto scratched at his cheek. Yeah, well, anyone would do it. No, I don't think they would. She straightened again with that small smile of hers. I'm sure my darling Lee will want to thank you in person. He should be back from his hunt any minute now. Nora put 2 and 2 together first, clever little girl that she was. Her eyes sought his across the table. Kurama made a noise of discontent in the back of his head. Oh, no. Ren averted his eyes with a weary sigh. Mother. She blinked. Yes, son of mine. No, it's nothing. Naruto's gaze slid to the 5th seat at the table. An empty chair that would never be filled. A meal forever destined to go cold. His eyes swept back to Ren, finally realizing just what it was about her smile that unnerved him so. Realization dawned in a thunderclap. Just how hard had she hit her head? An entire ceiling had crashed down on her during the siege, and injuries to the brain were a terrible thing. They didn't always heal right. It might not even be an injury at all, but something altogether worse. Now you see why I wanted you to come. Ren looked to him with a miserable whisper. She's been like this since she woke up. I'm sorry. Don't be. Naruto gave him a nudge. You and Nora can take your food outside. Be careful not to spill it. Nora dithered just a bit. What about you? Will you be okay? He tousled her hair with a smile. I'll handle this. Whatever are you 3 talking about? The children scarpered. Naruto watched them go, then counted to 9. Only when the distant sounds of their footsteps had faded altogether and once his senses told him they were most assuredly not eavesdropping, did he dare rise from his chair and move to inside. His gaze traced the repaired house as he did. They craftsmen really had done a fine job, repairing everything. And outside might think nothing had happened. But they knew. He knew. So did Anne, even if she refused to admit it. Miss Ren. Please, she tittered and touched one hand to her cheek, just call me Anne. Miss makes me feel so old. She didn't look it. No, don't avoid the subject. Doing so would be a disservice to poor Lai. Blast it all, he was no good when it came to this sort of thing. And was waiting for a dead husband who would never return. Lee was long dead, his body given to earth with the others. One look at Anne's glassy eyes and her false smile told him all he needed to know. He knew what it was to lose someone, make no mistake, but how did you deal with denial? You faced it head on or you ran from that too. He knelt down beside her and took her hand in his. I'm sorry about your husband. Ren's told me a lot about him. I'm sure he has. And flinched. It was a small thing, the slightest narrowing of the eyes, but it was there. Lee's fine. He's gone hunting. Naruto knew couldn't afford to be gentle here. It would only feed her delusion and worsen her denial. Callous though it might seem, he needed to open this wound so that it might heal. Be cruel to be kind. You need to face this. Her eyes fluttered in a rapid blink. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes. His hand gripped hers, rooting her where she sat. You do. Think about your son. He can't bear to see you like this. You're hurting him. I am thinking about my son. A fracture etched itself in her carefully crafted facade. Ren, she swallowed once, he was named after his father. Did you know that? Such a wonderful name. When he didn't answer, she tried to steer the conversation to safer waters. What does yours mean? Anne? His voice cracked like a whip. You can't keep ignoring this. They never found his body. She babbled. He's alive. They did find his body. Naruto interposed gently. My clones found him. We gave him a very nice burial and laid him to rest just outside of. His head twisted out of the way as a bottle whistled past his cheek. It struck the wall behind and burst in a shower of glass, staining the plaster a vivid rose red. Hard way it was, then. When Anne tried to stand he took her by the shoulders and gently yet firmly forced her back down to her chair. She fought him for every inch, to no avail. How do you think Ren is taking this? He went for the kinder kill. If you act like nothing happened, you'll never be able to move on. Naruto saw the blow coming a mile off and stood his ground. His head jerked to the right as an awful crack filled the air. Say what you would about her mental faculties, but Ren hit hard. Even now he could feel a riot red handprint pulsing against his right cheek. The pain meant nothing. It was the sorrowed look in her eyes that hurt all the more. And what do you know? More than you. His eyes blazed with balefire, rendering those hateful words to ash on her tongue. I've lost more than you can possibly imagine. Her hand swung in at his face from the side. This time he caught it. I've been where you are now. I've suffered and lost, lived and learned. You don't know anything about Ao. Don't pinch my cheek. I know it hurts. His forehead touched hers, azure blazing into magenta. All your anger, sorrow, guilt, it's twisted up inside you like an ugly root, ain't it? I can even tell what you're thinking. Because I've thought the same thing damn thing. When she didn't reply, he pulled on. Why couldn't it be me? Why am I alive? Why did they leave me alone? You think those feelings go away if you deny them, pretend they're not there. She looked away, unable to meet his gaze. But we both know that's not true. Lily is fine. Her voice warbled. He's fine. Everything is fine. Do you really believe that? Naruto felt his scowl redouble. Ren doesn't. He's accepted reality. He's hurting, but he's trying to be strong. For your sake. All this. He cast a hand around at the fine food before them, the faint simmering candles, her blatant refusal to accept reality. You're spitting on his efforts. A scowl twisted his face. I hate people who lie to themselves. Boy. Calm down. He would do no such thing. It's not fair. Her fists beat at his shoulders. Why me? I wanted to die with him. Why did you save me? Why couldn't you just let me die? Something ugly reared its head in Naruto's heart. Did you even think for a moment how Ren would feel? When she looked away he grabbed her, wrenching her face back to meet his with firm anger. He'd be alone in this world without you. It's a terrible thing for a child to grow up without a mother. I should know. I never knew my parents. By the time I did, I'd gone nearly 2 decades without them. At least you still have your son to live for. Her lower lip trembled. That's not. You have to face yourself, damn it. He gave her a shake. Blame someone if you want to, blame me if you have to, but don't live like this. This isn't a life. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. I hate you. But that horrific howl, and Ren broke his grip and surged up in his arms. Her head hit his chest, arms flailing wildly, to no avail. Her hands hooked into claws, tearing at him. When that didn't work, they became clenched fists to beat at his torso. Naruto endured it all. A silent rock, quiet and stoic. Them. She wept, she wailed, she cursed and spat at him, until even her words ceased to have any meaning at all. Until she wasn't even hitting him anymore. She sobbed and sobbed some more. Her tears ruined his already shredded jacket. He let her be. Just held her. Why she whimpered into his chest. Why couldn't it be me? Why did it have to be him? There were no more words to give. He simply held her. He wasn't sure how much time passed after that. Minutes. Seconds. Hours. It felt like the later. Eventually, Anne spent herself, as all consumed by grief do. I'm sorry. When she finally spoke, her voice was a world-weary croak. I don't hate you. Really, I don't. You've done so much for this place, and it's not your fault. He muttered, shamefaced. Didn't mean to cuss at ya. Don't be. When she continued, her voice was tiny small. You're right. He's dead. I need to face that. Soulful pink eyes glanced away. He was long gone by the time you arrived, wasn't he? He was. It shamed him to admit it. I would have saved him if I could. There was nothing I could do. If I'd just been a bit faster. Can you raise the dead? Now it was Naruto's turn to wince. He'd known someone who could. Several someones. Ito Tensei. He'd seen the jutsu in action more times than he could count. Did he remember the signs? No. Did he understand the complex process and preparation that went into making it? No again. Did he want to dive that rabbit hole? He already knew the answer. I can't. He said at last. It's different when there's still a spark of life left in them, but I don't know how to bring the dead back life. Even if he did, he wasn't certain he wanted to try. Some things were best left alone. An soft voice drew him back to reality. How did he die? Well, I think. He thought back to the body he'd seen. With his bow in hand and an empty quiver on his back. Odds, that's just like him. She touched one hand to her cheek and turned a wistful gaze to the ceiling above. He would have liked you, I think. You're a fighter. Just like him. No risk too great, no challenge too grand. Her eyes gleamed with fresh tears, but these she held. My son told me what you did. I'm alive because of you. I should hate you. There's a part of me that still wants to, even after all you've done. But I can't. So. She looked back to him and leaned closer. Her breath was warm on his face. I'm going to say this now, while I'm still in my right mind. Thank you for saving me. Full lips alighted upon Naruto's cheek. Little more than a peck, it startled him all the same. Danger. His mind slammed on the brakes even as his body surged to his feet. I've upset you. And saw it and recoiled as well. Was it something I said? I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me. Her hand touched his chest, lingering. A knock at the door saved him from doing something terribly dishonorable. My lord. A sentry's voice came through, muffled by the wooden barrier. Leonardo Lionheart is awake. You told us to inform you when he did. It was enough to burn away his embarrassment for now. Is that so? Blue eyes flashed with a hint of cold gold. I think I'll have a word with him. With one last furtive look at him, he bowed low on the waist and moved to depart. Wait. Her voice rooted him. Who are you, really? He spared a rueful glance over his shoulder. Just a shinobi. .0.0.0. Leonardo regretted opening his eyes almost immediately. He stirred to find himself laid out on a straw pallet, sprawled in the cramped confines of a cell. That wasn't what frightened him so. It was not the stone walls of his prison, nor the hardened iron bars, or even the lack of his beloved weapon that set him so ill at ease. Rather, it was the memories. They were merciless. Crashing down on him in a bitter wave, drowning the brief ignorance that came with the first fleeting moments of waking. No. He didn't want to remember. Ignorance was bliss. But remember he did, every second of it, every instant that brought him to this moment. The orders he'd received from Salem, what he had seen here, followed by the mind-numbing existential terror that came with it. He felt the fear now, trailing searing fingers of shame down his spine. So afraid. Too much heat. Those eyes. Those terrible eyes. Quit whimpering. Someone growled from the cell beside him. You give Huntsman a bad name. Leo peered into the dark and regretted that too, as he saw the cell opposite him. Wrathful red eyes glowered back at him within the dark, framed by a mess of dark hair. He recognized her vaguely in the dim light. Osmond had introduced them once upon a time. Such a long time again. Raven, he stammered out her name. I don't understand. Why are you? She took one look at him and rolled over. You fought him too, huh? Not quite. As if in defiance of that very statement, the door creaked open on rusted hinges. Light steps descended the stairs at a languid pace. Leo didn't want to look. He truly didn't. Knew what awaited him, saw that horrid axe in his mind's eye. This was where he would die. He imagined that great golden edge coming down on his neck, the spatter of blood that would follow. Against his better judgment he looked up. Naruto dragged a chair out and sat down before them with a sigh. I've had a rough night. He spoke slowly, deliberately, drawling his words with a callous disregard for those around him. I just finished telling a young mother that her beloved husband won't be coming home. Then I had to comfort a young boy who will grow up without said father to raise him. His hand tightened around the haft of his axe. Then I had rock a little girl who had none of those things to sleep because I'm all she has left in this rotten world. Raven remained silent. Leonardo dare not speak. So. Here's what's going to happen. Blue eyes blazed in the gloom, rising to regard each of them in turn. There are things I don't know about this world. And you're going to tell me. This was his chance. His way out. If he could make himself useful. Yes, of course. He all but tripped over his words. I never wanted to be headmaster of Haven. You can have it. If you let me go I can help you, provide you with resources, supplies. No. Leonardo squeaked back. I said no. Not yet. You're gonna tell me who you work for. Well you, his eyes cut to Raven, are gonna explain other things. She actually had the gall to lift her chin, the fool. What do we get for it? You get food and water. Freedom, for good behavior. Maybe more. Leo dared to venture the question. And if we refuse? You'll still be fed and cared but neither of you will see the light of day. Why do this? Raven snapped at him. You're like a god to these people. Why lower yourself to help them like this? The world could be yours. They'll get it all wrong without me. The golden god shrugged helplessly. I have to help them. Branwen turned her head aside and spat. The wise man once said, never be cruel and never be cowardly. Naruto pushed himself upright, grimacing a little. Hate is foolish and love is always wise. He planted his axe in the ground with a dull crack, sending webs of fractures splintering across the stone. Always try to be nice, but never fail to be kind. Laugh hard. And fast. Be kind. Kindness doesn't win wars. Raven snapped back. It only dooms you to failure. I'm not trying to win. The whiskered warrior cocked his head. I'm not doing this because I want to beat someone, or because I hate someone, or because, he paused, worked his mouth for a moment, then shook his head. Or because I want to blame someone. It's not because it's fun and God knows it's not because it's easy. His brow furrowed, turning dark indeed. It's not even because it works, because it hardly ever does. I do what I do, because it's right. Because it's decent. And above all, it's kind. It's just that. Just kind. If I run away today, good people will die. An arm swept back to the door he'd come through. If I stand and fight, some of them might live. Maybe not many, maybe not for long. But they'll live. The words resonated with Leonardo. He'd been brave like that once. Bolder. Hey, you know, maybe there's no point in any of this at all, but it's the best I can do, so I'm gonna do it. Naruto pulled on, eyes burning furiously. And I will stand here doing it till it kills me. You're going to die too, someday. His gaze swept between them both. How will that be? Have you thought about it? What would you die for? Silence answered him. Who I am is where I stand. Their captor finished. Where I stand is where I fall. That's all. Leonardo flung up his arms. Then you will fall alone. No. Naruto grinned. Never alone. Now speak. Freedom or eternal darkness in this pit. It wasn't even a choice. Damn him for a fool. Damn him for being weak. Damn him for wanting to be brave like this young man. He craved the courage in those staid blue eyes, the simple resolve to stand for what he believed in, for what was right, even if it killed him. He was just too much of a coward to grasp it. Leo broke anew. Salem. I work for Salem. Naruto tilted his head, a curious fox regarding them. And who is Salem? Someone who can't be killed. Raven put in with a snarl. You're a fool to oppose her. An awful silence pervaded the cells. And? Then? Laughter? Ha. A low chuckle pierced the gloom. Is that all? I've heard that word bandied about an awful lot lately. Immortal. He scoffed, rolling his eyes at them. Can't be killed. Unable to die. Let me assure you, there are fates worse than death and I know them. You don't know what death is. Let me show you. The towering golden fox head burst forth from his body. It grinned down at them. You have no idea what death is. Now talk. Raven and Leonardo sang like canaries. What other choice did they have? She's not that bad. I think this power will help her. Oop. You just jinxed it. Definitely. Ooh-oh. More sparks. Power and responsibility. This was awesome. Nora couldn't help but grin as she surveyed the ruin she'd wrought. Because for the first time, she had been the one to do something. All this destruction was her doing. The yard that lay before her was simultaneously a charred yet frozen mess, scorched and twisted by the elements brought to bear upon it. Yup. She did this. Because she had superpowers. Technically, they weren't real superpowers per se and yes, they tended to rage out of control when she got emotional, but still. Progress. She could direct it to an extent now, channel it, though it exhausted her. To come this far in a week was worthy of praise. Well, Naruto said it was. Nora wasn't sure. She wouldn't be satisfied until she learned to fly. Yet for all her inability to focus, one element came naturally to her. Stifling a grin, she took aim once more and flung out both palms toward a nearby straw post, one of 3 erected for the purpose of her training. Her hands crooked into claws. Blue eyes burned with azure flames. In this alone, her power answered readily. A snarl tore out of her, bringing with it that same burning heat as ever. Auntie Raven had been right about one thing. It really was a rush. Wild violet white lightning burst from each of her fingers and arced forward at speed. Faster than the eye could see, they crossed the distance in an instant and forked, splitting 3 different ways. With an almighty crack, each dummy blew apart in an explosion of straw-filled timber. Nora tilted her head back with a small smile as the ashes rained down on her head. And if she spread her arms as she cackled a little. Well, no one heard her. Unlimited Poa. Nora, no, a familiar voice yawned somewhere behind her. Bad Nora. None of that. Leave it to Rennie to sound unimpressed even when doling out compliments. He could be so stoic sometimes. Maybe that had something to do with his semblance. Don't be like that, Rennie. She twirled in place, threading her fingers together as she cracked her aching knuckles. I'd never zap you. The pink eye peeked over the book he'd engrossed himself in. Why does that smile of yours not fill me with confidence? Oh, you. She paused then as a thought occurred to her. Witaminate. I thought Naruto had you running laps. He did. Another page came and went. I finished early. Someone needs to keep an eye on you. She flicked his forehead. Is that what you're doing? The dark brow quirked. As far as he knows. Yup. Good already. Nora couldn't help but giggle as she flopped down beside him. He's pretty awesome, isn't he? The tiniest smile touched his face. He really is. Really, this training wasn't so bad at all. A kid could grow to like this. Only 7 days ago Dananona Naruto. She flinched a little and quickly corrected herself, had declared that she and Ren would start their training under him forthwith. He hadn't said why, only that he wanted her to. More often than not her training involved wreaking absolute havoc on a singular plot of land set aside just for her. Ren was forced through no small amount of grueling feats, many of which he refused to speak of. She still had no idea why Naruto wanted her to do this, but then again, she didn't much care. He was her semblance, after all. No way he'd hurt. Some still called her mad for insisted on that, but really, it was the only thing that made a lick of sense. Sure, she hadn't been able to summon him to her side or anyone else for that matter. Since that awful night, but it all seemed so simple. If he wasn't her semblance, what was? Nothing, that's what. Definitely him. Still, these powers were amazing. That crazy bird lady said she would be able to fly someday. Just like a superhero. Now all she need was a cape and a hammer. Maybe a grenade launcher. Why not all three? You kidding me? Their keen ears heard a shout and caught sight their mentor across the way, flanked by Auntie Raven and Ugg, had really let that sketchy lion out of his cell again. Super sketchy that one. Always jumping at his own shadow like he thought he'd find a monster lurking within it. She didn't trust him one bit, even if he pledged his loyalty to the boss. Speaking of servitude. As ever, her mouth twitched into a smile when she saw what the grumpy woman was wearing this morning. Servant, indeed. Who would have thought the once mighty Raven Branwen would be reduced to this? Not her. Heh. That brazen-made outfit suited the cheeky. Black and white were totally her colors. Even if she hated them. It only made Nora crack up whenever she saw her. Even as she looked on, the duo flanked her teacher as a woman in red robes knelt before him. I have come to pledge my fealty to you, Lord of Light. Her voice was strong and powerful, audible even at this distance. What would you wish of me? Another one? Is this a cult? Naruto slapped a hand to his forehead. Have I started a cult? Why do I have a cult? Raven shrugged. Lionheart muttered something too soft to be heard. Not so Naruto. Not this time. What's your name? Their head bowed lower, kissing the floor. Melisandre, my lord. Another one with another weird name. Naruto groaned. That's the third this week. Nora muffled a giggle behind her palm, only to frown as the adults lowered their voices once more. Boo. No fun. She craned her neck as the woman in red robes was ushered away by an aide, and yet in spite of that, the unlikely trio lingered to speak among themselves in hushed voices. Inevitably, her frustration mounted. This wouldn't do. The little maiden crouched low to the ground. Hey Rennie. He didn't look up from his book. Let's eavesdrop on him. I don't think that's a good idea, hey. Nora gave him no say in the matter. She all but grabbed him by the wrist and crept closer, keeping low to a crumbling wall for cover. A few passerby noticed them and let them go with an indulgent smile. She didn't much mind that, so long as their targets didn't. Thought they could squabble without her listening in, did they? Well. They were mistaken. Declare you my successor. Leonardo was finishing as they drew within earshot. That might draw her out, if only to strike at me. If you're certain you can face her. No, Naruto shook his head, vetoing the idea. That's too risk for Haven and everyone involved. His eyes swept back to Raven. And I still don't believe you about this relic nonsense. You could always take that girl of yours to the vault and see for yourself. Girl? Were they talking about her? Ren frowned at her side. Should we really be listening to this? SHHH. Though pressed a finger to her lips and strained her ears, only catching the tail end of Naruto's reply. Want to keep her safe. There's no point burdening her with that kind of knowledge. Then you're the same as Osban. Raven folded both arms before her bosom, summarily realized just how much cleavage that action revealed thanks to the low cut of her hated uniform, and dropped her arms again. I thought you were better than him. Now who's the coward? Oh? Blue eyes flashed gold. I thought I heard something just now. Was it the wind? She grit her teeth. Probably master. Leo coughed once, hiding a laugh. Look, Naruto continued, I never said I was going to sit on my hands and do nothing. I'd like to make Kuroiri more defensible before his right ear twitched and his head snapped in their direction. We'll finish this discussion later. We have guests. Nora blanched and ducked down. Hide. It was no use. If he wasn't aware of them before, he definitely was now. She knew they'd been found out. You can stop hiding now, Nora. His voice called. You too, Ren. You've heard all you're going to hear today. He planted a hand on his hip when they didn't appear. You have until the count of 3. Alright. Nora popped out of cover before he could pull out a prank. We're here. Well? A blonde brow quirked. What do you have to say for yourselves? There could be only one response when faced with such. Nora grabbed Ren by the wrist and bolted. You'll never take us alive. .0.0.0. You'll never take us alive. Naruto watched them go with a fond smile. Cheeky little scamps. Raven scowled as they scampered away to what they thought was safety. You're too soft on them. Maybe, he shrugged carelessly. They won't be children forever. Might as well let them enjoy it, you know. Even if it puts them in danger. A blonde brow rose and she quailed beneath its weight. I'm sorry. I spoke out of turn. Forgive me. There was a certain word to describe this kind of behavior, wasn't there? Aha. He remembered now. Whipped. She really was afraid of him, wasn't she? He wasn't sure he liked it. Granted, didn't regret thrashing her within an inch of her life back in the tribe, but he hadn't thought it would scar her this badly. And really, the uniform was a bit much. Kuroiri hadn't been kind to her. I'll just take my leave and get something to eat then, yes. Lionheart saw the tension for what it was and scarpered. Don't mind me. Naruto waved him off and returned his scowl onto Raven. So, he began, apropos of nothing, this relic you keep talking about, just how many questions can it answer again? Was that the ghost of a smile on her face just now? 3, ever 100 years. 2 should be left. There was the faintest hitch in her voice just then. And why is that? Raven chewed her lip and looked away. You used one of them, didn't you? Her head bobbed. I did. He should have known. How else would she know so much about Salem? Small wonder she was a nervous wreck. Sharp red eyes sought his. So, are you going to use it? DCH. Naruto pinched the brow of his nose. You know it ain't that simple. According to you, a relic draws grim. Even assuming I run to Haven at top speed, and that's a big if, he shot her a dark glower when her eyes shone with triumph, there's nowhere safe to put the damn thing. It'll draw the beasties here. What would I even use it for? You don't have to use it, she argued. Just take it, seal the vault, bury it somewhere. If she doesn't know where it is, she'll be delayed decades, maybe even centuries. Don't we have our storage scrolls? Kurama chimed in. We could always toss it in one those maybe. Not sure how a relic would react to that. Naruto touched a hand to his pouch, considering. He did have a few on him. They didn't have much in them beyond the odd kunai and throwing star, but maybe if something was sealed away in a scroll, it was essentially stored away from time itself. Food kept, metal didn't rust, cloth didn't fray. Could he really just toss this so-called lamp in a scroll and be rid of it? Or I could destroy it. He offered blandly. How badly would that screw her? You said she wanted all 4 relics, so if she couldn't have one. Unlikely. Raven's lips pursed into a thin line. The relics were made by the gods. They cannot be destroyed. And who decided that? She winced. It's your funeral. Kurama scoffed. Sweetheart, destruction is our specialty these days. Or you could go with a third option. Use the lamp. Think about it, master. Her arms looped around the back his neck, fingers linking there. All the knowledge in the world. Wouldn't that be helpful to you? There must be something you want to know. A small part of him was warming to the idea. And yet suspicion prevailed. You're being awfully pushy about this. Why? I can be more than your servant. Her forehead touched his. You know what they say about rulers. Her smile gained an edge. A king must have a queen. With her? Unlikely. That beautiful face hid an ugly personality. After all the trouble she'd caused him, he wasn't feeling all that generous toward her at the moment. And him? A king? Surely not right. He was just helping the village out. He wasn't king of anything. No way. Right? Not a chance. He shook himself free, meeting her scowl with one of his own. Sorry, not sorry. Raven let him go, displeasure writ all over her face. You'd rather go for that widow, then? Why no. He recoiled. And just lost her husband. She needs time to mourn, not. His cheeks burned when he remembered just how close she'd been. What the hell's wrong with you? Oh? Came the hiss. So it's Anne, now. That why you're avoiding her? Don't want her to tempt you? Her chin rose in defiance, emboldened by her anger. I'm better than her. Faster. Stronger. What does she have that I don't? Leave it. Naruto shot her a black glower and turned his attention inward. Thoughts? One or two. Kurama offered the mental equivalent of a shrug. There are some secrets not meant for mortal eyes. Then again, I'm not mortal. Blue eyes rolled. Thanks ever so much for your words of wisdom. I can't choose for you. But I will say this. We already fought one immortal before this. A sigh punctuated the darkness of his mind. If you take this relic or whatever it is, she'll notice. Do you really want to tangle with another unkillable foe so soon? Raven's a far cry from Sasuke, and I don't trust that cowardly cat one bit. It would be you and me against her. Alone. We don't know a thing about her skills, abilities, anything. To say nothing of what might happen if we unite the relics. So you're against it, then? He sounded almost surprised. Seems I am. What would you even use those questions for? To find a way home? Nah, his rejoinder proved swift. I mean, I'd like to someday, but I'm not in any rush. Really, he wasn't. When he'd left them, the elemental nations had been at peace. Whereas this world, remnant, most assuredly was not. The people here were a hardy folk, but they couldn't protect themselves from the grim. Not yet. He could train them, of course, but that would take time. Time he might otherwise not have. So what to ask, indeed. There was a great deal he could ask the lamp, but most of his inquiries pertained to the future, which by her very nature and Raven's own admission Jin wasn't allowed to know. He could ask about Salem, but what would that gain him? Not much in the long run. He already knew who she was and likely what she wanted. She was immortal, sought the maidens, and probably wanted to rule or end the world. In that order. Not all that different from Kaguya, excepting her search for the relics and maidens with them. The maidens. He pondered the matter for a moment, considering what Leonardo had told him with his own assumptions. A teacher for Nora would be nice. Raven knew a little of the spell theory thanks to her brief time with Spring, but it wasn't enough. She didn't truly understand the power. None of them did. In many ways they were running blind here. Reacting, rather than attacking. Perhaps it was time for a change. On a whim he turned to face Raven once again. Any idea where the other maidens are? Unfortunately, no. The former chieftain shrugged, though her voice remained sharp. Last I heard, they were in the academies. One or two might have flown the coop since I left. As you know, Spring certainly did. Although. Naruto perked up. Although. I do remember something about the last fall maiden. She was a warrior, real young when she got her power. The swordswoman thumbed her chin as she warmed to the topic and grinned. Fighter through and through, that one. Osmond and her never saw eye to eye on things. No idea if she's still kicking. Her power might have gone to someone else by now. Do you at least remember her name? You know, it's funny. Her eyes fluttered in a brief baffled blink. I should, it's right there on the tip of my tongue, but for the life of me I can't. She touched a hand to her temple and shook her head. Strange. Man and beast alike winced. Well, now. That ain't ominous at all. Outwardly, he said otherwise. And the others? Atlas still has their old hag, Freya, though her mind is all but gone. Raven turned her head aside and spat at the mention of her. Nobody knows about Vacuo. What? She quailed a little under his flat stare. Folks don't much care about that place. Damn desert. Trust me, you don't want to go there. With that, the bare bones of a plan began to form. Right, that was one theoretical question sorted. What of the other? Meh. He'd figure something out down the line. He'd always been the sort to charge in first and ask questions later. But there were people depending on him here. The maidens might be useful, helpful certainly, and it wasn't as if he intended to gather them all in one place. Recipe for disaster, that. No, he just needed one. Not for very long, just enough to give Nora a grasp on her powers. That was all. He heard his ward sneeze in the distance. A peal of thunder echoed her. Hopefully soon. Ren. Nora. He cupped both hands to either side of his face and called for her. You up for a road trip, oomph? He grunted in mild pain as the girl in question slammed into his leg, latching onto the limb for all she was worth. Burning blue eyes met his, framed by a giddy grin only a child could pull off. When do we leave? He'd only just opened his mouth to reply when the bell began to toll. Clang. 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 Nora's smile bled away as cry went up from the main thoroughfare. Grim at the gate. Someone cried. Grim at the gate. Their enemies had come again. We can do whatever we want, right? You said it yourself. We're strong. Nora, no. With great power comes great responsibility. And pancakes. Well yes, but that goes without saying. Knowledge and greed. It was nearly noon when the Grim came for Kuroiri once more. At the command of their dark mistress the swarm swept froth from the forest, a writhing tide filled with growling maws and gnashing teeth. They knew neither exhaustion nor fatigue, only relentless anger and boundless hunger. They expected a weak little village filled with fearful folk. The weak and the untrained. Meat for the grinder, flesh to rip and tear, screams to savor and little else. They found something else entirely. When they found the village gates flung open, they stormed through, never once wondering why. Fear drove them inward, funneling them deeper into the town. Bodies battered against crude barriers hewn of wood and stone, only to be carried away by the sheer press of their fellows. Numbers alone forced the horde down a single path. A narrow, unblocked lane. One that forced them yet deeper into the strangely silent settlement. A more intelligent army would have realized something was amiss. A proper general would have seen the ruse for what it was. But the Grimm weren't an army now, were they? They had no leader here beyond the command given to them. Destroy. That was all. They were a plague, a disease, a blunt instrument that knew neither with nor strategy or even the simplest semblance of wisdom. They cared not for traps or pitfalls. Only the hunt. Only the kill. And their prey awaited. As one mind, one body, they swarmed into the village square for the slaughter. But instead of a teeming mass of frightened people, they found only one man. He stood tall among a great sakura tree, hands planted in his pockets. Eyes like fire gazed upon them, his body burning with living flame. And he spoke a single word unto them. Hello. It wasn't a threat or even a shout. He simply greeted them. And yet there was something in his voice, a whisper of the old power that made those at the front slow, if only for a moment. Then the back rank crashed into them. They tried to bull forward, only for the force of his intent to hit them as well, rooting them in place. His words struck like a physical blow, hammering against their will, filling them with fear. Yet for all that he radiated no negative emotions. No hate, no fear, no sadness nor sorrow. He stood before them, axe at his side and didn't budge. He regarded the army before him and clicked his tongue softly, shaking his head. For a moment, just a moment, his shadow seemed to grow 9 tails. No man was this. This was a monster. Don't suppose your master can see this now, can she? The monster smiled and tilted his head, considering them as a giant motes of dust. I've been told she rules over you lot. His every word dripped with cold derision. How sad. Do you even think for yourselves? He smiled, but it was the smile of a man pitying something so utterly beneath him as to be an ant. Or are you little more than wild beasts? Growls answered him. Fair enough. He took his hands from his pockets. Guess she ain't here. That would be too easy. So. Any you survive this run. Run to your master. His lips parted in a smile when the growling intensified. That's right. I want you to run to your mistress and give her this message. He reached for the towering axe. Groery stands tall. The gate slammed shut behind the Grimm, denying them their retreat. Not that they would have. Grimm knew no such retreat. For them, there was no way out but through. The man before them might be fearsome indeed, yet he was but one man. As such there was only one recourse. The massive Grimm surged forward. Naruto grinned. She will always stand. That giant golden axe hurtled forward, trailing fire. A single sweep split the street to send Grimm flying. A pocket opened in the dark and he waded into it, swinging like a maniac with one hand. The other swung back in the same instant, and every Grimm recoiled from the keening shriek of wind that filled the air, but their frothing fury drove them onwards. With a lazy flick of his wrist, Naruto lobbed a Rasen shuriken into the throbbing black mass. Now, lass. A different man Samson's rough voice came from the rooftops behind the golden giant. Blast him. A child's scream rose in response, though she was hidden well out of sight. Heaven answered her. Had the Grimm possessed more than the meanest intelligence they'd been given, they might have seen the skies darken overhead. They might have noticed the Rasen shuriken skim just out of reach, harming none of them whatsoever. It almost seemed to hang there in the air as if it were waiting for something. For the lightning that forked down from grief-stricken skies and struck the jutsu from above. All hell broke loose. It wasn't so much an explosion as the lack of one. Just pure noise, an awful racket that ripped bodies apart like so much paper. One moment there was a teeming black tumor of Grimm. Wind and lightning mixed. Poorly. In the chain reaction that followed, dozens died in droves. It all went downhill after that. Archers burst from the rooftops, armed and ready. Someone swept an arm forward. Loose, you bastards. Show no mercy. Arrows slammed down from the high rooftop, skewering the survivors. A few of the bigger bread survived and made a break for the now closed gate. They slammed themselves against the crude fortifications one after the other, each trying to batter through them and mow down the stubborn souls behind them. It was a good plan. Crude and effective in its simplicity. The white-cloaked figure dropped down into their path. Their face hidden by a white hood. But not so their smile. She grinned from ear to ear. No, you don't. The wash of silver light struck them, stalling their charge. Some turned to stone. Others dissolved where they stood. Unable to stand the sheer burning radiance. Still more crashed into the now frozen forms of their brethren and found themselves trapped by a crumbling tide of stone. Claws and paws scrabbling uselessly on the suddenly uneven ground. That in turn gave the defenders time to rally. Spears and shields. Citizens armed with those very weapons bulled in, forming an unyielding circle around the Grim. Even as Naruto tore through the middle, they pushed the beasts in, leaving them nowhere to hide. Hemmed in by the heavy phalanx, they never stood a chance. Perhaps had their leader been present, had she directed the assault personally, things might have been different. Her minions were mindless and confused, unable to react to this sudden rout. The Grim never stood a chance. Many of them died as they lived. Pointlessly. When all was said and done, the incursion lasted a measly 5 minutes. 5 minutes and 500 Grim died. It was a tale that would be told time and time again, growing grander with each retelling. Perhaps, has Naruto an inkling of just how absurd this story would become, he might have simply slain the Grim outside Kuroiri himself and been done with it. Good work, people. Instead he moved among the soldiers, clapping them on the backs. Just like we planned. No idea who pulled that flash of light, but she's useful. Didn't know you had a warrior like that around here. The blacksmith blanched. We don't, my lord. Naruto blinked. Then who? That would be me. His head snapped up, startled to find that the woman in white had closed the distance between them when he wasn't looking. As he looked on, she tugged down her cowl, revealing stark silver eyes and a smiling face framed by dark hair red at the tips. Really, really red. Not quite the color of blood, but a different sort. Kurama quirked a brow. Red like roses. Nice to meet you. The huntress, this could be nothing else, clasped both hands behind her back and swayed in place. I'm Summer. You were pretty impressive back there. Somewhere behind him Naruto heard Raven gurgle and dive into cover. He frowned. What was her problem? Summer, was it? He shook the thought away. What brings you to Kuroiri? Don't suppose you've seen a Knuckle-V around here? She tilted her head just so, as though expecting it to spring out the shadows at any moment. I was sent to eliminate it, but I caught sight of that swarm and diverted here to help. Oh, that. Naruto couldn't quite hide his smug smile. Already killed it a few days ago. Really? She blinked owlishly at him. By yourself? Yup. Silver eyes flitted to his belt. With that axe? Nope. Didn't have this baby back then. So you killed it barehanded? He grinned a little. Yoop. Ooh. You're no fun. Well, I was looking for the Branwen tribe too, but I haven't been able to find them. Oh. Her gaze strayed to the side, finally noticing little Ren and Nora nearby. Hello, aren't you adorable? She saw them and cooed, concealing a smile behind one palm. I've got one their age back at home. Are they yours? Naruto felt a strange, unfamiliar heat creep up the back of his neck. Well, I'm looking after them. Nora and Ren took one look at the overeager huntress and behind his legs. Summer squealed and looked back up to him. Silver eyes caught a flicker of movement and whatever words she might have mustered withered on her tongue. Be it by chance or just bad luck, she glimpsed Raven just as she was moving to another hiding place. Or rather, hide in one of the houses. Raven froze, caught just shy of escape. Summer took one look at her, blinked. Saw her maid uniform. Blinked again. Her quarry stood stone still, a proverbial deer frozen in the headlights. Summer's lips twitched. Raven. The former. Bandit Queen made a keening noise between her teeth, sounding very much like a little girl. No. Summer's wrist blurred, not to her weapon, but her scroll. I need a picture of this. Raven's already pale face turned beet red. Don't you dare. A peal of delighted laughter filled the air. It was soon followed by a dull thud. Summer's body struck the ground face first, sporting a sizable welt upon her head. Leonardo lowered a stout wooden club behind her, looking decidedly sheepish for it. Oomph. Nora winced. That looked painful. Naruto flung up his arms, aghast at the sudden treachery from the cowardly lion. Leo, what the hell? I'm sorry. The faunus flailed. I panicked. She's a known agent of Ozpin. Is that a bad thing? Yes. Raven stomped down on the scroll, rendering it a mess of metal and plastic. Right, then. Naruto shook his head, took Nora and Ren by the shoulders, and steered them away as he subsequently left Raven to her fate. You lot clearly have some catching up to do. We'll just get to Haven before any more surprises hit. And so the Lord of Kuroiri moved on. Raven howled at his back. Traitor. .0.0.0. Salem's fingers drummed against her throne. Still no word from Lionheart. And curious rumblings at Haven. Curious. And concerning. Perhaps it was time she sent someone to investigate. .0.0.0. Nora had never been to a big city before. Kuroiri was the largest settlement she had ever seen, and Haven dwarfed that by far. The city of Mistral was alive in a way few things were. People bustled to and fro, merchants hawked their wares at every turn, and everyone wanted to sell them something. Even those that didn't want their attention. Be it hers or Ren's or even Naruto himself. The sword for you, m'lord. Pretty jewelry for the little lady. Fresh fruit. Get your fresh fruit, here. Back. Naruto shooed them away. We're not buying anything. Bunch of vultures. Ren bore it all with stoic indifference, the faintest scowl upon his face. Nora tried to mirror it and soon enough the vendors let them be. All too soon, Naruto led them right up the steps to the academy then inside, uncaring for anyone who saw. At first she didn't rightly understand why. He guided them to a grand statue in a lobby, one bearing the striking likeness of a beautiful young woman. It was there that he stopped. Time to see if Leo was telling the truth. Nora gulped a little, anxious at the prospect of success. Maybe he wasn't. But now, Naruto pulled Lionheart's watch from his jacket and fitted it into the lock. It opened readily, chains falling away. Freed from its shackles, the platform shifted a little and descended, creating an impromptu elevator of sorts for the unlikely trio. Naruto stepped onto it. No response. He frowned. Nora. Ren. Come here. Ren reached the platform first, but it didn't truly shift until Nora touched it. Naruto caught her as it lurched. Gravity reversed and down the shaft went, descending into darkness. No one spoke. No one dared. And then. Wow. The gasp tore itself from Nora as the grate parted and she beheld that spacious cave below. No, not a cave. That word felt too small. More like a cavern. A large platform resting over a deep chasm she couldn't see the bottom of, its path leading to a gilded door that she could only assume was the vault. 3 giant cyan circles on the ground each etched with an ornate symbol illuminated when the 3 of them walked in. And there. At the end of it all. Nora saw it. An elaborate orange doorway situated in a rock wall. Naruto made a noise of appreciate when he saw it. Of course he did. He liked the color orange. Behind it loomed a tree with glowing orange flowers. The doorway itself appeared constructed out of golden fans layered on top of each other, each festoon decorated with a floral pattern. Even from here they called to her, singing in a way only she could hear. Beauty didn't even begin to describe it. This place was just amazing. Nora exchanged a worried glance with Ren, only to find him smiling. "Race you there?" She grinned. "You're on." The 2 darted ahead. "Careful, now." Naruto called after them. "Don't fall." Just like that, the stark reality of their situation returned. Nora's leaping gait slowed as approached the door, dragging her feet with every step. Was this a trap? Would they be attacked? Ren took her hand in his, fingers threading through her own. "Don't be afraid. We're here." Herc. There went her heart. She stole a glance back and found Naruto waiting only a scant few paces away. She knew from experience just how quickly he could cross the distance. He was a proud guardian, watching them with due silence. One hand was set to his axe, leaving nothing to chance. "Go on." His whiskered cheeks dimpled in a small smile. "I'll keep watch. No one's getting past me." Her cheeks warmed a little. He wasn't like Mom. He wouldn't run and leave her to danger. Semblance or not, he really was the best dad ever. Naruto wheezed. "Nora, why?" Oops. Had she said that last bit out loud? No, no, no. She was stalling. She could do this. Be strong and hit stuff. She might not be big enough to swing a hammer yet, but she would be one day. For now, this was something only she could do. Nora tugged her hand from Ren's, stepped up and laid her hand upon the vault door. Nothing. She frowned. "Come on, work." Not a sound. Pale blue eyes lit with smoldering flames. "Work." The stubborn door defied her still. A snarl built in the back of her throat and burst into a frustrated shriek. "Open sesame, damn it." Just like that, the vault finally complied. It began with a faint pulse in her palm. Heralded by a soft click in the door, something only she could hear. The sound sang in her soul, and she found herself smiling despite herself. "Hello, child of spring." A voice like purest music whispered in her ear. "Do you seek knowledge?" Nora looked left. Nora looked right, now. Nora touched a finger to her cheek. Belatedly she realized around her the colors of the world had bled to gray. Naruto and Ren looked on, frozen in time, transfixed in silence and stillness alike. Her gaze swung back, suddenly terribly anxious. "You're talking to me?" "I am." The voice, a woman. Sounded vaguely pleased. "Do you seek the gift of wisdom?" Yes." She felt the faintest wind caress her face. "Why do you seek it?" Nora wrinkled her nose. She hated logic puzzles like this. Why couldn't people make sense? "Because it will help my village." She spoke haltingly, choosing her words with great care. "Because I need to get stronger." She had to. She must. She had people to protect. "Why are you talking to me, anyway?" "Because you intrigue me." A note of curiosity threaded itself through the woman's voice. "You were not meant for this power. It was originally destined for another." "Oh." Her heart fell at the reminder. "I didn't ask for it, you know." "True. It is yours now, nevertheless." The voice sounded faintly amused now. "What else will change because of this?" "How quaint." I suppose your protector has disturbed more than the natural order of things. A faint sigh pushed between them, as though she were stretching. I feel awake, now. Aware in a way I haven't been in millennia. Though the voice yet lacked a body to behold, Nora had the faintest impression its owner was tilting her head to one side. I wonder how my siblings will feel about this. How could she respond to that? To any of it? Don't mind me, dear. It is for me to know. Nora blinked. How did you know? There could be no mistaking the laughter in her voice now. The gentle chiding of an amused woman, like a mother teasing her daughter. I know many things. Past and present alike are known to me. Nora perked up. Even the future. To a certain extent, though my restrictions prevent me from speaking over much of it. After all, knowing and telling are two very different things. Nora's mouth opened. And no, the being behind the door tittered with a note of motherly amusement. I cannot answer the question you're thinking of. Not the one pertaining to the boy. Oh. Nora scuffed a shoe against the ground. And here I wanted to know if me and Rennie ended up together. You know, together. Realization dawned a moment later and pale hands flew to her head. Did you read my mind? Is that rude? I apologize. Human concepts often elude me. It's been quite a long time. Nora began to reassess her opinion of this stranger. I'm starting to think you're a little cracked there, lady. Perhaps. She could have sworn she heard the faintest note of amusement within her words. Still, you pass. May you live long and prosper. I await you. With a soft sigh the vault door folded in on itself and parted. Golden fans clicked into place. The floral pattern began to light up, leaving the layers of fans to rotate until the gateway could be broached. An arid landscape awaited her beyond, dunes of sweeping sand far as the eye could see. And there, sitting upon a lone pedestal carved from black rock, the relic awaited her. What was that? Some kind of lamp? It looked pretty. Nora eyed it with trepidation in her heart. What was this place? An illusion. Another world. Something far worse. A thorn of fear pricked at her heart and she hesitated at the last. Do not be afraid. The woman's voice came on again. I am with you. Nora steeled herself and stepped inside. Heat hit her like a physical force. The air here was arid, yet she endured. It was just sitting there. No tricks or traps, no guardian. She was clearly meant to take the relic. No one else. Her heart sang the closer she came, the power in her veins rejoicing at the reunion between it and the relic. None challenged her. This feels kin to anticlimactic. She took hold of the lamp and tugged it free. It shrank to fit her grasp immediately. The sigh filled her mind. At last. Nora hefted it, considering the strange item in her grasp. All right lady, spill it. Who are you? A shiver passed through the air. Do you know me? The lamp cooed at her. Do you know what I am? Do you want to know my name? Nora gulped. Yes. This is what I am called. The wind picked up, a gentle spring breeze to tug at her messy hair. I am called the Keeper of Knowledge. Protector of ancient secrets. As she spoke that once kind wind intensified. Kicking wild grains of sand into the air. I am scholar and scribe, all-knower and prophesier of the past. Still the wind intensified, building into a sandstorm around them. I have as many names as there are winds, she called, as many titles as there are ways for you mortals to die. I have waited 1,000 years since I was bound to this lamp and cursed with knowledge, ripped from my home and my people. Now. A high, almost giddy exultance bled into her words. I am myself once more, my true name lost to the sands of time. But your kind knows me by a different name. I am Jin. Nora squinted into the wind. Jin. Blue smoke burst from the relic, resolving itself into the towering shape of a tall woman with blue skin and striking dark hair. Oh. Wow. She was huge. A spirit hovered there before her clad in golden chains and nothing else. As a baffled Nora looked on, one of said golden shackles began to dissolve before her very eyes. Indeed, the interlocked links binding Jin's right wrist vanished into golden dust. She seemed more solid for it somehow. More real. Like her body had become more solid somehow. Surely she was imagining things. Jin. The spirit repeated, stretching with a luxurious sigh, bosom heaving. And I am yours. My thanks you have for loosening my chains. She craned her neck past her, considering something just outside of the vault porpor. Perhaps your guardian might break them entirely. But those eerie words, time unspooled once more. Naruto called out to them a moment later. What's going on in there? Nora whirled to face him and waved with a sheepish grin. Did I do good? .0.0.0. Ozpin felt it. How could he not? There had been awakening. The god of light had entrusted him with the relics long ago, and likewise their safekeeping. He could sense them in his mind's eye. In essence, they were a part of him. He knew each was safe in their vault, just as they had been for hundreds of years. Until quite suddenly, one of them wasn't. He felt it, like a burning brand in the back of his brain. A stabbing pain in his temples, a sudden start in his chest. Something had shifted. Changed. Stirred. Even now he could feel it. A persistent itch that scratched at the very surface of his soul, refusing to be denied. And he knew. The lamp is missing. Osmond set his mug out of harm's way. Steepled his fingers, closed his eyes, and sighed. Then he swept an arm out and sent his desk hurtling out a window. Why is the lamp missing? I'm getting better at controlling this. Is that a good thing? You tell me. Fame and family. Wah. Naruto Uzumaki had experienced many strange events in his world. He'd fought monsters. Toppled immortals. Risen to heights so extraordinary that his deeds were carved into legend. He liked to think that there were precious few things in this realm that could alarm him. Because he'd experienced every surprise life could possibly throw at him. He'd seen it all. Until now. Being kissed by a giant blue woman wasn't one of them. Her lips were softly against his. Slightly larger perhaps, yet nonetheless intense. Their lip lock was alarmingly brief, but it startled him all the same. He jerked back and much to his dismay she leaned in further, pushing him against a nearby wall, before she finally let him go. Wha? He managed. Nora made startled Nora noises. Hey. Ren coughed at his side. Should have seen that coming. Fascinating. Jin whirled away with a smile, nearly vanishing into the crowds of Kuroyuri. So that's what it feels like to kiss someone. First-hand experience is a heady thing. Before he could even hope to comprehend a thing she'd said, the genie whirled through the air and flitted toward another food stand. So many things to try, so little time. Against his better judgment they'd brought Jin and her lamp. Back to the village. Really, where else could they take her? The vault had closed the very moment Nora extricated her. They couldn't very well seal her up again now, could they? A festival had been thrown to honor their triumphant return. Hence the knowledge keeper's excitement. Now that she'd gained some manner of corporeal form, she was determined to use it to her heart's content. Even if she refused to wear clothes. Say what you would about Jin, but she certainly wasn't the sort to let an opportunity slip by. You're staring. Kurama jibed. He'd hid his face. Can you blame me? Not really, no. She's certainly very blue. Naruto slapped a palm to his face. That's the part you're focused on. I'm a tailed beast, fool. Of course I'd notice a strange color like that. What did you think I was talking about? Nothing. Indeed, the sight of a nearly naked azure woman was certainly arousing one to the mortal eye. More than a few men and women were staring at the commotion she was making. Jin moaned, an involuntary cry leaping from her lips as she helped herself to a fresh roast of venison. Sublime. Not to mention the noises. Naruto reached out and reeled Jin back in from the food stall. An impressive feat when one realized just how tall she was in her natural state. Really, it was like trying to wrestle a giant. Shrink down again, damn it. It's hard to wrangle you like this. And do you have to carry on like that? Jin flicked a pointed glance at Nora. The spring maiden beamed. Right, you heard him. Down you go. As you wish. With a pulse of azure light she assumed human size once more. Better. Naruto looked down, mildly amused to find that she was suddenly a good head shorter than him. Now, the noises. I'm sorry. She whirled to face him, blue eyes practically glowing. I just can't help myself. As he looked on she performed a merry little twirl in the air. Knowing is one thing, tasting is another. Do you have any idea what it's like being able to know things, yet unable to interact with the world? It was maddening. A long arm flitted out, snatching a skewer of meat from a startled vendor. I shan't let this opportunity pass. Who knows when I'll be sealed up again. There. Nora patted her arm. It's alright. We won't put you back in the vault. Jin smiled. And that, my master, is why you're my favorite. The little sprite beamed. That's great. You know, I always wanted a sister. Jin quirked a brow at Ren. Not a brother. Nah. I'm gonna marry him someday. Totally different thing. She touched a finger to her chin. Or Naruto. Haven't decided yet. Probably Rennie, though. Ren exploded into a coughing fit. Nora. Naruto shook his head as the trio continued to chatter. He knew he really ought to ask about a maiden mentor for Nora. It just always seemed to slip his mind, somehow. Truth be told he wasn't in any hurry to hair off into another conflict so soon. He had defenses to construct, weapons to build, and lives to improve. So much to do. Surely he could put it off for a little while longer. You just don't want to deal with all this maiden nonsense. Guilty. He scratched the back of his head with a rueful smile as Nora laughed at something Jin had said. I really don't wanna. Leave it to Kurama to be the voice of reason. You'll have to, sooner or later. Maybe. A smile creased his whiskered visage when Nora jumped on Ren's back, nearly riding the poor boy to the ground. But not today. Besides, it wasn't as if they were in any immediate danger. So long as Leonardo ran interference with Salem, she'd be none the wiser. Really, what could possibly go wrong? And even if something did, surely he could handle it. So why did he feel like he was forgetting something? Probably nothing too important, whatever it was. Point oh point oh point oh. Ozpin absolutely snarled. Leonardo. His voice was thunder itself. Why is the lamp gone? Is it? The voice on the other side of the scroll quivered but held strong. Rest assured, I will investigate with all the resources available to me. Point oh point oh point oh. It was the noise outside which finally woke Summer Rose. What in the world? Silver eyes fluttered open to an abominable headache. A steady thump 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 that ruthlessly roused her from the darkness of her room. She touched a hand to the welt on her head and grimaced. Swimming up from the depths of her dark slumber, the very first thing she heard was the laughter of small children. Followed by the subsequent startled squawk of the man who'd taken them under his wing. Nora, no. She heard him holler. No using your powers on carnival games. Oh, but the pre-eyes is a hammer. I said no sparks. Everything was a whirl. She could hear everything just fine, but the act of focusing her vision proved an arduous task in and of itself. Somehow she managed to wrangle her vision back under control. She sat up, grimaced at the thin cot beneath her and tried to stand. Her legs buckled and sent her sprawling back to the mattress. Curses. Foiled. Alright. She took hold of the tattered threads that were her thoughts. Focus. Remember. What happened? She recalled Raven wearing that ridiculous outfit. Laughter. Followed by a pain in the back of her head. Was that a fever dream or something? Raven wouldn't be caught dead wearing a getup like that. She'd sooner take a sword and commit seppuku. Literally. Birdie was edgy like that. Summer flopped back to the pillows and flung an arm over her eyes. Probably imagined it. Wait. Hadn't she taken a picture? She sprang upright and fumbled in her pockets for her scroll. Nowhere to be found. Boo. Maybe she had imagined it. She'd been terribly tired after wiping out all those grim. But to imagine her one-time partner wearing a ridiculous getup like that. Maybe she was more tired than she thought. As luck would have it, the object of her thoughts rounded the corner, tray in hand. Said tray crashed to the floor the moment she laid eyes on Summer. Raven blinked. Summer blinked back. Neither moved an inch. The latter realized. That really is a maid's uniform. Silence stretched between the two of them. This is a dream. Raven waved a hand in vain. You see nothing. Go back to sleep. Silver eyes narrowed to absolute slits. The huntress perked up. Scowled. Come here, Birdie. Raven floundered backward, trying to escape. Too late. Then came the shouting. The accusations, the recriminations. Raven Branwen, you will take responsibility for your daughter this instant or so help me. Point oh point oh point oh. Naruto looked up as a sudden commotion filled the square. As such, he had a prime view of Summer Rose dragging Raven out of Ren's house and into the yard. By the ear at that. From this distance he didn't hear what she said to the surly red-eyed woman, but he clearly saw her press a hunting knife into her palm. Said palm flailed at the air. At first he didn't much understand the point of it. Why beat Raven, then drag her out here, only to arm her? The snarling scarlet portal tore open in broad daylight, startling everyone terribly. Well, mostly everyone. Alright. Naruto smacked his lips. Why did she give Raven a knife? And where does that portal lead? I want answers. Much to his chagrin, he received them albeit not in the form he expected. A young girl came tumbling through Raven's portal and crashed face-first into the bandits. Raven groaned. Another, smaller child landed atop her back, further pressing the once proud bandit into the muck. A chorus of groans arose from them. Naruto blinked. Nora blinked. As did Ren. Jin ignored the lot of them, having already moved on to her next fest. Kurama gave his host a sharp jab in the brain, rebooting him from his stupor. Oi. Focus. He took in startled lilac eyes looking this way at that, set in a pale face framed by a mane of tawny blonde hair. The girl atop her was slightly less so, pale but mostly dark red-black hair with startling silver orbs. In fact, she almost looked like a mini Sumero. Oh, that was by it. Naruto hastened his pace, already knowing he would be too late to stop the impending disaster. Still he pulled his way to the front of the crowd, struggling in vain to reach the two of them, villagers parting before him like the sea. He was 5 steps away when little blonde pushed herself upright and blinked at Raven. Mom. Eh? The smaller girl balked. That's your mom. Then she saw Summer. Hi, mommy. Summer slapped a hand to her forehead. Hello, sweetie. Naruto's heart leaped into his throat. Very bad. Defcon 1. There. The ex-bandit spat into the muck. I brought him. Happy now? Not in the least. Summer grabbed her by the ear again before she could escape. I told you to go see Yang, not bring her here. Let alone Ruby. Now apologize. Like hell. I left to protect Oh. A hard yank sent her reply peeking into a surprisingly girlish whine. I'm sorry. You're going to be when I'm through with you. Wow, Nora muttered to herself. Her mom's a total bitch, isn't she? The blonde girl perked up. Did we just become best friends? Ooh. I like you already. Ren tugged at Naruto's sleeve. Should we do something? Nah. The whiskered warrior offered a self-same smile. They've got this. At least he was certain they did until someone else came stumbling out and through the still open portal. Yang. He had time enough to take in red eyes and dark hair. What in the world? Silence ruled anew. Raven made a keening sound into it. Pro Branwen took one look at his startled sister. He blinked. 3 times. Rubbed his eyes. Then he keeled backward with a cackle. .0.0.0. He'd finally tracked her down. Hazel knew a thing or two when it came to hunting maidens, and this one had eluded him for some time yet. For a time, the Fall Maiden had proven elusive. Almost vindictively so. She knew she was being hunted and thus never stayed in one place for more than a day. Ever running, ever moving. But here, at last, he'd cornered her. There was nowhere left to run. He would drag her to Salem. Kicking and screaming if need be. Heavy footsteps carried him to the mouth of the cavern. He hesitated at the entrance, half expecting a trap. None sprang. Not this time. She'd run out of tricks. Carved into the mountainside itself, the cave looked to be a large one. If there was an exit within, she'd not taken it. She was waiting for him. Which meant she intended to fight. But why here? After all, a cornered rat always fought the hardest. And so he wandered inside. A flickering fire waited him only a few yards within. His eyes adjusted to the gloom and beheld a cloaked crone hunched over it. In truth, their age was impossible to tell, for the shadows held tight to her face, shielding from view. The wench looked up at his approach and tutted softly. Shame on Salem, sending a young man after an old woman like me. Beneath their worn hood, a bright eye pulsed with living flame, fully realized in its might. Doesn't she have any respect for the elderly? He caught a glimpse of smooth skin beneath her cowl. You're not old at all, witch. A small smile flashed across her face. Perhaps not. It was worth a try, I suppose. Surrender and you will not be harmed. He offered her a palm. I dislike violence. This is your only chance. Then I'm afraid we've come to a bit of an impasse. She shifted a little, casting him in the shadow of her campfire. You see, I'm rather fond of violence. And you, my dear, made one fatal mistake. The flames of her little fire made an ominous crackling sound as one of the logs splintered within. You never should have followed me. Don't you fear death? I've died before. A smile flashed beneath her hood. That's how I found myself here. Slender fingers rose, clutching at the air. Honestly, people falling out of their worlds left and right these days. It's enough to drive a woman mad. An awful grinding sound echoed from the entrance. Realization dawned. No. Hazel whirled just in time to see a wall of pure flame bring a rock slide down on the mouth of the cavern. Light vanished as they were sealed in. Only the flickering flames of the woman's flames remained. With a low hum, the so-called crone hunched over it, straightening what he'd assumed to be a hunched back. It was not. Her tattered cloak fell away to reveal a woman far younger than he'd expected to find. A single bright eye regarded him. The other lay hidden behind an eye patch of fine black lace. Pale of face was she, her hair near a platinum blonde. Beneath the cloak she wore the ragged remnants of a once grand outfit. Finery now reduced to mere rags of his former self. You don't seem to understand. There was a low contralto to her voice now, a simmering undercurrent of amusement that he'd failed to notice before. I'm not locked in here with you. An ember of flame sprang to life in her left hand, eating away the glove she wore. You're locked in here with me. Hazel shifted back as raw heat suffused the walls and ceiling, turning the floor to molten glass at his feet. It's been so long since I killed a fool like you. The shadows began to writhe around her now, twisted and distorted by flame. I've gone by many titles since I came to this world. She arched her back, rolled her shoulders once, and began cracking her knuckles with thinly veiled intent. So many names. Rosaline. The Fair Lady. Witch of the Flames. I was even a singer, once. A faint smile creased her scarred visage as she touched a hand to her burned cheek. He did so love the sound of my voice, but you? Her hand rose and an odd sphere swirled to life behind her. You may call me Signora. Should that name mean something? The woman tittered softly. It will in a moment. Hazel's brow furrowed yet further. Battle it was, then. The massive hand ripped his shirt away. Strong arms fell and rose into the twin satchels at his waist, each coming up with a dust crystal in hand. He jammed them into his shoulders. Heat blazed through him, numbed now as his semblance took hold. Another crystal came and went, followed by another and another, now another still, until vibrant veins of power crept across his flesh. His eyes glowed a wild gold with all the power coursing through him. Yet his foe made no move to try and stop him, let alone impede his efforts. So why, then, did he have a bad feeling about this? Long ago, I was known as a harbinger. The woman prattled on, seemingly ignorant of his transformation. Then again, I suppose the meaning of such a title is lost on a rodent such as yourself. Her voice fell to an angry rasp. I was meant for greatness. A burnt palm gestured at him, and he noticed she was missing several of her fingers. The rest were pure flame. I was destined to become so much more. Her gaze sharpened on him, threatening to cut with its fury alone. And then that stupid little shogun slew me. She drew herself up to her full towering height. Killed me, cut me to pieces, and cast me here. Her hands rose, embers dancing at her fingertips. My body is fire, after all. It stands to reason I would rise again. Like a phoenix from the ashes. Now I have you lot hounding me left and right for a power I didn't even want. Well, be careful what you wish for. Enough of this prattle. Why are you telling me this? Because, dear Hazel, Signora purred, I know you won't tell a soul. Nor will you bring me to the false god you call Salem. With her words, the temperature suddenly plummeted. Why? Did she not wield flames? I served one goddess. His would-be victim intoned. Unfortunately for you, she's not here. The Tsaritsa would have killed you most kindly. Her arms rose and the flames obeyed her, crackling impossibly over the ice as her body began to writhe and twist. I shall grant you no such luxury. For harrying me thus far, you will die screaming. I cannot feel pain. The wall of flame raked over his body, stealing the air from his lungs. It raked through his aura, singing his very soul, driving him to a knee. Is that so? Her smile was cruelty incarnate. Such a fascinating ability. I wonder what your threshold is. Fire bled from her visible eye. Her smile made Hazel want to cry. Now then, she hummed. You have my permission to die. Let me put this in very simple terms. This is my family. This my home. Treat them with respect and we'll be the best of friends. However, if you even try to hurt them, you'll feel the wrath of the sun. Questions and answers. It was time. Naruto both knew and dreaded it in equal measure. If only because he'd practiced the words for the better part of an hour now. He'd taken Jin to an empty room. Latched the shutters. Drawn the curtains. Locked the door for good measure, just to be certain. All the while Kuroyuri moved on without him. He didn't have time to delay. You could, if you want. Once we do this, there's no going back. The Jinchuriki inhaled deeply, mulling over the question in his head, wondering once more if this would work. He'd put so much time and planning into this. To simply throw it aside now was too much to bear. This wasn't even for his sake, not really. He was doing it for Nora. She needed a teacher for her maiden powers, and as much as it pained him, that teacher couldn't be him. Resolve hardened into a diamond of determination in his chest. Screw it. He exhaled in a sharp burst and barreled on before he could second-guess himself into an early grave. Jin. Finally settled on a question, have you? She crossed one leg over the other in her chair, still savoring her physical form. Very well. As always, her voice was musical beauty. Ask, and I shall answer. Naruto rubbed his hands together and slapped his cheeks. Moment of truth. Alright. Blue eyes rose to meet the spectral woman hovering before him in his home. I ask you to tell me where the other three maidens are. So that I might know who would make the best teacher for Nora. Bit off on the wording, but he believed it would work. He didn't think Jin would try to trick him, but the rules that bound her, even loosened as they were, might not give her a choice. Hence the strange reason for his speech. It was a fair question through and through, one phrased as too simple in its complexity and intent. Neither asking of the future or the past, while simultaneously requiring a clear, concise answer. Even so, he wasn't quite sure he'd get one. Jin pursed her lips and tilted her head to regard him. He knew he would when those lips curled in a faint smile. Clever boy. You're learning. That was all she said. Silence reigned supreme, and in it, Naruto wondered if he'd made a mistake. Then he felt it. A butterfly fluttered past his nose, wings beating slow, slower, slowest. Life ground to a halt around as the unbound relic took effect, reality turning gray as all the colors of the world bleached away. In this moment the very hands of time were frozen, and they, the only two aware of it. There would be no one to interrupt them this time. Even so, he hid a small smile behind one hand. He really wasn't half as clever as she thought. He had gone over the phrasing of his inquiry with Kurama time and time again. Then Raven, followed by Lionheart himself. Cowards had their uses, and for all his anger toward Raven, Leonardo was worth his weight in gold. Repentant one more than most. Even now he remained perfectly positioned to aid him from the shadows. A liaison between him and Haven was useful enough, but someone who could keep the Salem distracted and fend Ozpin off in the same breath. That made him downright invaluable. He wouldn't be letting him off his leash anytime soon. A bit harsh, don't you think? Boy. I just meant I'll be keeping an eye on him. And he would. That much was certain. It wouldn't do for Haven's precious headmaster to have a relapse after all this. Raven he could trust not to run away and restart her tribe. If only because she knew he'd hunt her down. Lionheart's loyalty was a bit more intangible. Still, he had a bead on the furnace now and he'd certainly track him down if he turned his coat again. But now was not the time for such thoughts. Now was a time for answers. Ah, but Jin was smiling at him once more. He didn't like that smile. Is that all you wished to ask? Naruto pursed his lips. He did want to know about this strange new power of his. The surges of strength he experienced whenever the sun was out and how to master them. But he didn't dare. So long as he could control his outbursts and direct it at his enemies, he wasn't overly concerned. What was the old saying? There's nothing to fear but fear itself. That was the one. He could puzzle out that mystery on its own. It wasn't worth using one of Jin's vital question. Admirable. Perhaps realizing his intentions, the genie graced him with a pure laugh. You show restraint when others would pounce at the chance to use and abuse me. One arm rose, propping up her cheek. Better yet, you do not seek to monopolize me, as the old man did. That got a blink from him. Old man. Be kind to him when the two of you meet. Her eyes glazed over, as though recalling an old memory. He means well, but he often goes about things the wrong way. One last thing, if I may. He paused and looked up, realizing Jin had actually hesitated for once. She, who had been so lively and vibrant since Nora broke one of her shackles, seemed oddly silent and pensive now. She wriggled in her chair, seeming to shrink in on herself. No, she actually had. Before his very eyes she reverted to human size once more. It made her seem frailer somehow. He waved her on. Before we begin, she steeped her fingers and laid her chin to rest atop them. I would ask a boon of you. When frowned, she mistook his silence and hastened on. I will answer your question regardless, but I am in need of your help. Naruto's gaze shifted to the butterfly, still frozen in the air. Help with what? He wasn't sure he liked where this was going. I would ask that you free my brothers and sisters as your daughter has begun to free me. She held up an unshackled limb, massing her wrist where a manacle had once been. Her remaining chains clinked ominously against one another. She is the key to all this. Do so, and everything I have is yours. Hey. He wasn't quite able to muffle his instinctual protest. I was already going to help you regardless, but she's not my daughter. Jin quirked a baleful blue brow and glided from her chair to regard him. Your protests ring hollow, my friend. Do you not care for her as if she were your own flesh and blood? Both her and young Ren, you watch them as a hawk with their chicks. He'd hit his cheeks. That's. Have you not devoted yourself to their protection? She had him there. Now wait just a. Jin did not. Are you not fortifying this village for their sake, that they might have a safe place to live? Kurama laughed. She's got you there. Nosy genie. She really did know too much for her own good. I am a being of knowledge, Naruto. She said. You have loosened my shackles. I choose to whom I give knowledge, now. She reached out, cupped his cheeks, and drew him in, butting her head against his. And I choose you. Naruto's heart hammered to life in his chest. He had a brief wild inkling of what was to come, but she was just too close and he wasn't quite quick enough. For your heart is pure, your cause a worthy one. He tensed, only to blink as she delivered a swift peck to his cheek. This is what I know. Jin waved a hand and the world whisked away in a torrent of white, leaving them standing in the void. Open your ears and heed me. In a swirl of smoke, Naruto found 3 women standing before him. One stood at the forefront. Older than the rest, her eyes a pure icy blue, should-length dark hair flecked with streaks of silver. Not an old woman, but not young either, only the vaguest of wrinkles touching her pale face. He waved a hand before her image before he realized she was just that, an illusion, a facade conjured by Jin to better aid her in the tale she wove. I shall first speak of Freya, she who holds the power of the Winter Maiden. .0.0.0. This was her life now. On a certain level, every level. Raven Branwen knew she'd been beaten, made a slave in all but name, her tribe scattered to the winds and any chance of her claiming Spring's power with them. Most were probably rotting in a cell somewhere. Such was the fate of the weak. If they couldn't evade the authorities or Lionheart's huntsmen, then they weren't fit for the Branwen name. Just like her. Oh, how that stung. The day's humiliation being forced to meet old face and reconnect with her past was merely the latest in a long line of embarrassments that she swore to repay in time. Eventually. After a certain blonde berserker and his line were long dead. Maybe then she'd finally be in control of her own destiny again. He'll likely outlive you, though. A nasty little voice whispered in her ear. Look at you. You're no spring chicken. Raven tossed her head from side to side, sending the dark mane of her hair swing. Shut up. Just accept it. You're his bitch now. Next thing you know, he'll get you a collar and… Ah. Deceit. Treachery. Even her own monologue betrayed her. "You alright there, Ray?" A hand waved before her face, snapping her back to reality. "You're spacing out." Raven glowered bloody red daggers at the culprit sitting across from her. What was it with her and blondes? Were they destined to drive her mad? She was beginning to think herself cursed. "Hey Yang, I will harm you." "The chortle. Not in that skirt, you won't." Yet another galling truth. She could hardly fight in this absurd outfit without flashing someone. Besides, he thumbed his nose at her, the cheeky prick. "She's right there." Raven looked down, recalling the weight in her lap. She felt almost comfortable here, sprawled on the grass, Yang in her lap, head resting on her knee, making pleasant noises as she stroked her hair. Those lovely little lilac eyes wouldn't stop looking at her. In many ways Yang had found her mother, and while Raven felt an undercurrent of anger there, she couldn't deny the bond between them. How else would she have a portal to her? Maybe if she'd waited a few more years, she might have been able to harden her heart to shove the girl off and walk away. But seeing her now she just couldn't. Maybe she'd hit her head one too many times during her duel with Naruto. Perhaps she was losing her touch. She might have just been afraid of Summer's reprisal. What right did she have to this happiness? Her heart clenched, and with that thought she couldn't bear to look at Harem. Run along and play with Nora. She nudged her progeny on a whim. Have fun. Really? Can I? Yang clambered upright and wriggled in excitement. We can right. You lose. Naruto's brat was growing stronger every day. The maiden powers only hastened her growth. Don't even try. Naturally, her spawn took that as some sort of challenge it absolutely wasn't. And stomped a foot. Nah. I'll win. You'll see. Tell you what, the seed of an idea sprouted in her mind, if you win, I'll what did kids like these days. I'll buy you some candy. Yang didn't budge. Tai chuckled a little. Raven felt her face begin to win. Ah, fine. If you put up a good fight I'll train you. There. Happy. Yang shot off like a rocket. Yang sighed in her wake. You shouldn't goad her like that. Anger knotted in the pit of her stomach. She held it in until she was certain Yang was out of earshot. The moment she was, Raven rounded on him. What do you want me to say? She hissed. That was I was wrong. A coward. I am. A snarl tore out of her as she looked away. I'm a miserable coward and a failure of a mother. Try as she might, she couldn't conceal the tremor that ran over her right hand. I ran. She clenched her fingers into a fist to still it. I had my shot. I took it. And now that life is over. I doubt Summer intends to share. She flicked a gaze across the courtyard and found her there, sitting with Ruby and Nora. They'd cornered poor Ren. Even now they were braiding his long hair. No escape for that one. Yang was making a beeline for them. She was almost curious to see what might happen. Still, Taeyang clung to hope, sentimental sap that he was. She might be. Her throat closed. No. Not hope. Not now. Too painful. Stop. She rasped. Just stop. But Yang. I didn't say I was giving up on the little shit. She snapped her teeth at him when he made to protest. I left for her own good. I can't do that now because someone forced my hand. She could see she'd intrigued him. Good. Maybe he'd leave her be now. That's good. Raven squawked like her namesake. What? You need someone to keep you on the straight and narrow. Taeyang kept his legs crossed beneath him as he leaned forward to flick her forehead. If you've found someone else, I'll give you my blessing. Air burned Raven's throat. Her. And him. No chance in hell. Dolt. We're not like that. Aren't you? I see the way you look at him. There's no shame in it. She headbutted him for it. Because he beat my ass. Is he that strong? Another shiver, this one not entirely of fear. More than you know. .0.0.0. Crow found the kid first. Say what you would about him, he looked young. This Lord of Kuroiri wasn't even a man. He was loud, brash and not at all used to giving orders. Easy to tell and even easier to read. Whoever he was and wherever he had come from, he was clearly struggling. There was a part of him that wanted to tell Oz all about this, if only to repay his kindness. Ozpin had resources. Kuroiri needed them. But in the same vein, fear and uncertainty held him back. This guy had Raven. No, he'd beaten Raven, thrashed her so badly she was acting like a flighty bird around him. How strong did that make him? So held his tongue for the better part of a day now. He was beginning to wonder if that was a mistake. Naruto stumbled out into the yard and nearly collided with him. So much so that he had to catch the blonde lest he topple over. He looked more than a little haggard. You alright there? You look like you saw a ghost. Technically, I did. The young man muttered. Hum again. Nothing, just the price of knowledge. He muttered, waving him off. I'll be fine. Just got a headache. Where's Nora? The harsh crack of thunder split the afternoon, chased by the laughter of children. Crow waggled a dark brow at him. That answer your question. .0.0.0. Yang hit hard. Nora expected nothing less. A lilting laugh burst out past her lips as she hurtled into the air, aura crackling over her body like a second sin. For anyone else it would have meant certain defeat. If the punch didn't do her, then the landing surely should have. And really, it would have. For anyone who wasn't a maiden. The thought was all it took for her power to surge again. For the heat in her soul to writhe to the surface. Pale blue eyes burst into fire. A pulse of flame flared around her feet and right herself, turning what should have been a debilitating dive into a stylish sweep. Alright, maybe she overbalanced a little, but hey, she still made it look damn good. Go Yang. Ruby's voice hallooed from below. Nora scowled her way. Hey. You're supposed to on my side. The would-be Reaper winced and flailed both arms. Go Nora, too. Beside her, pumped a fist into the air with singular enthusiasm. Fight well. Summer cupped both hands to her mouth and cheered them both. Do your best, girls. Nora basked in the praise, letting it warm and suffuse her spirit. Was this what it felt like to have a proper family? She liked it. Naruto and Rennie were more than enough for her, but maybe it wasn't so bad having a few friends. More than a few. If Auntie Summer had her way, she'd be having a few more besides Yang. No fair. Her new bestie hollered up at her. You've got superpowers. I don't. Lies. You totally do. Nora shouted back, straining to make herself heard over the wind. I can't smack you without getting hit twice as hard. Yang flinched and scuffed a Buddha gaze at the ground. Yeah, but you can fly. Not for long, and not for very well. She was still getting the hang of it, but she wasn't about to tell her new bestie or better than the resty any of that. Yang would be on her in an instant. Her jaw still ached where she'd driven that fist into her chin. And so Nora did what any child would do. She stuck out her tongue. Nye. Come down here and say that to my face. Okay. A wild grin split her visage, one a girl her age had no business wearing. She rocketed down. Charge. They collided in a shower of spars and flame, grappling with one another. One day these two would be fearsome huntresses. But for now, they were just children. Neither of them had any weapons to their name, only fists, aura, and their powers. Nora wrinkled her nose at that. Yang had said something about her dad making her gauntlets, which made her long for a weapon of her own. No fair. She wanted a hammer. So? She grinned as they shrugged. When you gonna bust out your semblance? She laughed. I already have, silly. No. The little blonde wrinkled her nose, kicked out, and forced her away. My dad says people can't be semblances. She missed a feint and fell for a throw that slammed her into the dirt. That didn't make a lick of sense. Why not? Yang's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Huh. Fair point. So why are we doing this again? Nora wiggled her fingers at her. So I can learn how to shoot lightning at fools. Hey. Yang flicked two-finger gun at her as she giggled. I knew there was a reason I liked you. They collided again, no rhyme or reason, no rhythm, no cohesion, just a happy brawl of two children. Nora wasn't sure how long it went on for. Frankly, she didn't much care. Yang proved quick on her feet. All too willing to take a beating and dish it back twice as hard. Crazy girl had aura for days. That suited her just fine. After all, she was crazy too. Gradually she became aware of others watching, but she couldn't bring herself to care. It didn't matter. They didn't matter. She wanted to win. They fought like two tiny berserkers, raging back and forth across the yard while others cheered them on. Finally, she lost her patience and took to the skies once more. It's over, Yang. I have the high ground. The blonde growled up at her. You underestimate my power. Nora giggled. Don't try it. She tried it. More aptly, she leaped up at her, handing going for her shoulders. A brief bolt of light lit the evening. Aura crackled. Yang yelped. Her back struck the ground, followed by a groan. She tried to rise, propped herself up on her elbows, and crumpled with a growl. Nora shrugged. I did warn you. She heard the footsteps before she saw Naruto. Hey. Another word dad. Welled up in her, but she couldn't bring herself to say it when she faced him. His face was carved from stone. You alright? She winced a little at his stoic expression. You look angry. He crouched down before her. We need to talk. She gulped once. Okay. Talk, then. Naruto told her the news. And all her world came crashing down. What? Wad you mean you're leaving? Sunlight. How did it come to this? Naruto couldn't figure it out for the life of him. Everything had been going so well, too. He'd argued with Nora and Ren, put his foot down good and hard. Told them no time and again. It was too dangerous where he was going. Blast it all. He tried to be a good parent about it. Even gone so far as to explain himself and his reasoning for it. Sure, it hurt to deny them thus, but it was for their own good. At the end of the day, Atlas simply wasn't safe for two kids. So why were they here, holding his hands as he stalked down the street? You know why. Kurama's laugh cut deep. She started crying. Ren too, remember? You've always been a sucker for tears. Irk. Had him there, he did. He winced, recalling the memory. No. You can't leave us here. You promised. I'm coming right back. No. You're bringing Jin. Because she won't leave my side. Well, neither will I. Dee-da, she choked on the words, and for a moment he thought she'd say it. She didn't. Don't go. Just thinking of it made his chest ache. Nora might put up a brave front at times, and Ren with her, but at the end of the day they were still children. Raven was waiting back in Kuroyuri under the stern eye of no less than 3 shadow clones. Ready to rip a portal open for him the moment he needed one. Because, in the end, it had to be Atlas. Bakua was a blazing hell, Vale had this Ospen fellow Raven and Lionheart were keen to avoid, and Nora was Mistral's maiden. Which left Atlas. Cold. Bitter. Freezing Atlas. Leonardo's leverage had proven a boon there. Indeed his credentials had come in clutch, both for him, then the kids when it became apparent that neither Nora nor Ren could bear to be separated from him. Furnished with a brand new identity and a healthy disguise thanks to his transformation jutsu, the world was none the wiser towards them. It certainly helped that he knew exactly where this Freya was. No spring chicken she, but he might be able to help her with that. Just as soon as he dealt with his problem. Nora caught him staring. You say something, old man? Nope. He blew out a sigh. Just keep your head down until we find a way off the street, alright? Okay. He could feel the sunlight on his back, his body swelling with strength narrowly restrained. Had to hold it back. Needed to stay in control. If he lost his temper here this wasn't Kuroyuri, and these people weren't bandits to be slain at the drop of the hat. If he went on a rampage here, all eyes would be upon him. They stumbled upon the hotel by purest chance. Really, it was a trick of the light. A faint glimmer of sunlight snagging on a sign. It happened to catch his eye across the street, little more. With his head aching and soul smarting, Naruto all but pounced on it. Anything to get out of the gold. Glass unicorn, eh? Read the sign only in passing. Works for me. Taking Nora and Ren aside, he drew them up short just shy of the building. Alright, we'll be staying here for the night. Blue eyes flicked between them both, sharp and keen. Be sure and behave. Eyeless pink eyes blinked up at him. Yes sir. Not so Nora. Are we really gonna break into the SHHHHH? Naruto clamped a hand over her mouth before she could say anything else. Not so loud. I wouldn't call it breaking and entering. We're just going to pay this maiden woman a visit, get a few tips, maybe a notebook if we're lucky, then scarper. With her. The little maiden planted both hands on her hips. His brow furrowed. Nora, no. Nora, yes. Came her cry. Aqua orbs burned with azure flame, seething at the edges. You saw where they're keeping her. She's a prisoner. He heard Jin chuckle in the lamp. Of course she'd hide now. Cheeky genie. Loosening her shackles hadn't helped. She's older than dirt, he tried to reason, opening the door. We can't move her, not without a plan. He slipped inside. Glass sculptures of Great Grim loomed to greet them. It seemed the hotel lived up to its name. Garish didn't even begin to describe it. Nora hissed and drew into his side. Ren went pale. He couldn't even blame them for their fear. They had every right to be wary, sculptures. Stay. He stabbed a finger toward a pair of couches in the lobby, thankfully away from the statues. And try not to break anything, yeah. Without bothering to see if they listened, strode to the counter and tapped the bell for service. In short order an older woman appeared. Her smile thinned when she saw his face. Ahem. He followed her lone digit as she pointed downward, catching sight of the small sign therein. We don't serve Fronis. A blonde eyebrow quirked at this brown-haired woman. What are you talking about, lady? I ain't a Fronis. He touched a hand to his cheek. These are scars. Her scowl deepened. What proof have you? Alright. The second brow rose to join the first. You really want to do this dance, missy? Blue eyes burned a molten shade of gold as days of accumulated power rose in response to his temper, straining now against the thin leash that held it at bay. I have lean here. He slid a card across the counter and watched her eyes grow wide. Heh. Lionheart had been generous. And I'm willing to pay for a night or two, but he yanked it back when she made to grab at it, not for this. Do you understand? This is not the sort of establishment, sir. Naruto coughed. Wasn't saying it was. The madam had the good grace to flush and stammer out an apology. What'll it be, then? One large room for me and the kids. She ripped his money from the counter and stalked off with a huff. Huh. She flounced when she was angry. Good to know. Should've just killed her. Nah. If we went around murdering everyone who upset us, the world would be a cold hell. True, but mark my words, I've got a bad feeling about her. Hey. Listen. Naruto's head whipped around. You're kidding. Ren at least had the good grace to look chagrined. I tried to stop her. Oh, hush, Rennie. Look, old man. Nora skipped over, grinning from ear to ear. I made a friend. I left you alone for a minute. He flung up his hands. Only 60 seconds. How did you make a friend that fire? Hell. His words died an ugly death as he beheld just who Nora had wrangled. Pale of face with stark golden eyes and dirty black hair bound back in a ponytail, she was at least 3 years Nora's senior. Her white uniform, he assumed it was such, looked to be in dire need of a good cleaning, as did the rest of her. Poor girl. When was the last time she'd taken a bath? Those eerie golden eyes drilled into him. You, she swallowed once, coughed a little, then steadied herself. You're a huntsman, aren't you? Panic bleated in the back of his mind. Lie. No one could know why they were here. Of a sort, he hazarded. And these two? Her gaze raked across Nora and Ren with something akin to desperate hunger, as though Shui are searching for something. My apprentices. Another lie. What? Ren craned his neck back. No, we're not MMPH. Sure. Nora leaned over his shoulder, one hand clamped firmly around her friend's mouth. Apprentices. That's us. I knew it. A small shiver raced through the girl. She stole a glance around her suddenly, making sure no one was watching, then looked back. Only a hunter would have a weapon like that. Naruto touched a hand to the gilded axe at his back and sighed. Kurama absolutely howled with laughter in his head. Clever girl. He reached out to tussle her hair and she flinched away. At once he found himself reminded of a stray dog he'd seen in his youth. A good little pup back in the village until one too many kicks from the local bullies made it skittish then mean. Poor pup hadn't survived winter. Cinder. A woman's voice shrilled from the kitchen. Where are you? The floors need scrubbing. Humming. She stole a tiny furtive glance back their way, grappling with something deep in her heart, yet unable to say it. He thought of the god again. In the end Naruto took pity on her. Cinder, was it? The servant flinched again, and he barreled on bullishly before she could bolt. We'll be staying here for a few days if you want to visit. She dithered. I shouldn't. Aw, come on. Nora grabbed her hand with both of hers. It'll be fun. A blank look. I don't know what that is. You should. Ren took her side at the last. Don't try to run, Nora's inevitable when she gets like this. Here, Naruto snatched Cinder's palm before she could slip away, pressed a bit of lean into it and forced her fingers around the money. I'm paying you for your time. Your boss can't say anything about it now, can she? She balked at the card, eyes wide. A faint trembling smile touched her lips. This is a lot, I don't have change. Meh, keep it. He waved. Never really had a need for money, not these days. The older girl pulled a face. You one of those kid snatchers? Ren snorted. If you were, I'd fear for our sanity. Brat. Naruto batted his shoulder. Cinder took the chance to scarp her. As she did, he saw the necklace. It danced in his peripherals, a flash of gold crystal on wire. Something about it didn't sit right with him. His eyes were drawn to it and not at all in a good way. The fingers of his right hand twitched. Kid. I see it. As she turned he flicked a finger out and hit the dust crystal in her necklace with a faint pulse of chakra. Just a tiny one, so quick and small so as not to be noticed. With his speed, none saw. Cinder paused, feeling a faint and sudden breeze, but failed to notice the now cracked crystal above her heart. Cinder looked at him for a long moment. You're like him. Rhodes. She turned and bowed stiffly, lingering just out of reach. Will you really be here tomorrow, then? Sure. Naruto patted her head quickly, drawing a fearsome scowl from her. Lem know if you have any problems. Something sparked in those molten golden orbs, desperate and hopeful. Truly? Sure. He grinned. I keep my word. He had no idea what he'd just unleashed. What if Naruto has harem with Ren Nora and Raven? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.